when you hit a rash of injuries, those are the things that we should and must be able to count on. And hit that with the staff today, and that's disappointing to us. So our focus needs to be sharper. That's the bare minimum. And we're going to dig in to find out how we improve upon that. So that is our focus. The focus itself to make sure, like, eliminate things if we need to be sharper and cleaner of how we play. But one thing I do know, we'll also make the choice to absolutely go for it. Not going to be easy, but we're not staying in this space either, you guys. So our identity has not come together. And these next 4 games until our bye, we got a lot of work to do to help create that. But the inconsistency is the thing that, man, we're gonna hammer this out, and we're gonna get there. But it's frustrating, and that's where we're at today. So lots to work on. I told the team we had last night 8 days to our next game. We got a lot of work to do. So that's where I'm at, and I'll get started with you guys.
That was his open to his Monday day after press conference. That was the coach, of course, Dan Quinn. He said early in that soundbite, he just said, we're off course. He talked about how Navy SEAL friends of his, sometimes they're diving or they're sailing with no GPS, no landmarks. And he said, you need to know where you are, where you're going, and what bearings you're in need of. And just 3 degrees, 2 or 3 degrees off, and you're off course. And he told the team yesterday, that's where we are right now. We're off course. And you heard the rest of it after that. Good morning, everybody. I actually really like Dan Quinn a lot. I will tell you this, though. He does his press conferences in a very unique way. Most coaches don't get up with a theme to every press conference. He does. He comes in, he has some opening remarks, and there's usually, some sort of lesson or theme or what he and the team are talking about, on that particular day or the day before. Most coaches come in and say, Harry Blappentap has a broken ankle, and Billy Johnson's got, a hamstring. I'll take questions. They'll give you the injuries, and then they'll just say, take questions. It's not what the coach does. I appreciate that. He takes these opportunities to get the message out to the fan base through the local beat media that covers the team every day and works very hard to do it. He takes that opportunity to deliver a message every day. He did it in Dallas. He did it in Atlanta. I watched some of his press conferences when they hired him, and he started as the defensive coordinator in Dallas, every press conference with a story or a theme or some sort of life lesson. And so that's what we got yesterday. We are off course right now, and we got to get back on course. At 3-4, they're off course, and defensively they are way off course. And yesterday, as part of the early portion of the press conference, he did and was asked about the injuries, and he gave updates. And the good news on Jaden Daniels is that he had an MRI on his hamstring, and it's not a significant injury. It's not going to knock him out. Now, it might be a game on Monday night. We'll find out. By the way, this is a Monday night game coming up, which means that we don't have to hear from Quinn again until Thursday. His obligation is Thursday instead of Wednesday, and that's when we'll get an update on Jaden Daniels. I have no idea. I don't really have a lean one way or the other as to whether or not he'll be ready to play on Monday night against the Chiefs. But the news was good on Jaden. The news was bad on Dorrance Armstrong. He is done for the year with a torn ACL. That is devastating injury news for this team and for a defense that already is dreadful and needs every good player they can get if there's going to be any sort of hope for a turnaround. Dorrance Armstrong, you could easily make the case, has been their best defensive player this year. Oh, Sheehan, who cares? I mean, with him, they stink. Without him, they'll stink. Yeah, you could stink even more on defense. And they got, Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff and the Lions, and Seattle, who can really do it. Jackson Smith-Njigba, right now, top 5 receiver in the game. After watching last night, that game, by the way, the smell test finally cratered. Now, it was a 500 weekend, 5-5-1. 0-4, though, on the NFL. Had Houston last night. God, there were so many chances, Max. I don't know if I bet nobody stayed up to watch this game, but they had so many chances to cover at the end of the game. They were down 1st and goal at the 1 and came away with nothing. They had so many opportunities, but they didn't get it. They didn't get there. And 0-4 on the NFL, 5-5-1 weekend. Still don't have a losing weekend record-wise on this season so far, but kind of came back to the pack a little bit with a 500 weekend. Yes, I understand 500 is losing money. Okay, I've done this before. I understand that you don't, bet 100 and lose 100. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, when you bet 100 or you bet more than that, you lose typically 10% of you add 10% on top of that. That's usually what the losing number is. So if you bet 100 and win, you win 100. If you bet 100 and lose, you lose $110. That's called the VIG, the juice. That's how books make money. There are other ways, but that's how they make money. They charge you a fee. It's called the vigorish, or it was way back in the day. The game was really impressive from a Seattle standpoint. That's the opponent for Washington a week from this coming Sunday night. They'll break out the old uniforms. I'm very much looking forward to that. Yes, I am. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, 8 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Max, am I exaggerating? Top 5 receiver right now in the game.
No,
he may be the toughest cover.
Bro,
right
I said it during buy and sell last week that he's potential MVP offensive player of the year if Puka goes down. And he's proved it every week. There were a lot of questions with Seattle losing DK and Lockett. Can JSN make that step into wide receiver 1? And he has silenced every doubter in the room.
There's still something about Darnold. I'm getting sidetracked here, but I did watch that whole game last night. Watch the baseball, watch the Tampa-Detroit game too. Darnold still will make some of the dumbest plays. I mean, he had ample opportunity in the third quarter from his own end zone to unload the football, and he took a sack, fumbled, touchdown Houston. He threw a pick late in the game. They're up, by 15. Look, he can spin it. There's never been a question about whether or not Sam Darnold can spin it. And he's got a quick release. He just sometimes, when he doesn't see it, it ends up being the worst play possible. Even last year in Minnesota, he had great games. And then there would be a game, including that season finale against Detroit or the playoff game against the Rams, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't have clarity today on what they're doing defensively. And instead of, throwing the ball away or checking to runs, he just makes some dumb plays occasionally. But they look good, man, to me. They look really good on defense. Houston, by the way, is really good on defense. It was kind of an ugly game, but yeah, I was up until 1:20 watching that, trying to get the backdoor cover at the end. Stupid penalty on a third down stop late gave Seattle a first down. They took 3 knees and ended it. Anyway, back to Dorrance Armstrong. This is the biggest issue right now with this football team. This is a bigger issue than the wide receiver problem. Obviously, because it looks like Terry is coming back. I think he might be back Monday night. I'm hearing that there's a pretty good chance Terry's going to play Monday night. We'll see as the week goes on. There was no update from Quinn on that. In fact, I don't even think he was asked about Terry or Debo in the press conference yesterday. He was also not asked about Joe Witt Jr., although he did give John Keim an answer to, remember the night before when he said, we're going to look at everything. Keim, by the way, will be with us this morning at 11 a.m. But there is no doubt in my mind that their biggest issue right now is defensive end. People, they have lost their 2 starting defensive ends, Dietrich Wise and now Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong easily, you could say, best defensive player on the team this year so far. They lost Javonte Jean-Baptiste, their backup defensive end. Right now, on Monday night, they're going to go out there with Jacob Martin and Preston Smith as their starting defensive ends. Von Miller didn't sign here to play 40 snaps as a defensive end on first down. He's specialty. Preston Smith was supposed to be kind of the same thing. Now, they cut over the weekend to make room for Cosme, the kid Jalen Holmes. I would imagine if they haven't done it already, we're going to get news on that they're going to try to re-sign Jalen Holmes. They have to. They don't have any defensive ends on the team. They don't have one edge-setting, run-stopping defensive end on the team right now. Not one. Jacob Martin's not that. Martin has done a nice job as a pass rusher, not against the run. This is a much bigger issue than receiver because the receivers are coming back. These guys are done. I feel awful for Dorrance Armstrong. What a season he was having on a bad defense. I get it. Terrible defensive football team, no doubt. But he was a bright light on that bad defense. And now you're going to trot out against the Kansas City Chiefs, Preston Smith and Jacob Martin. You can't ask Von Miller to line it up on every snap. They'll be making moves. There is no doubt about that. Look, injuries, I always get a kick out of the people that, want to go full Doc, and nobody loves my guy Doc Walker more than I do, but go full Doc and do the next man up. And it doesn't mean that next man up is exclusive from they've been hit by the injury bug and that is impacting their season. Both things are true. You have to, if you're in the locker room and in that building, say, we got to find answers. You're not wallowing in it. You're creating and coming up with solutions. That's what competitors do. From our standpoint, from a fan standpoint, we can look at the big picture and say, yeah, they've been hit big time by the injury bug. There is no doubt about it. Dietrich Wise, starter, done for the year. Will Harris, starter, done for the year. Dorrance Armstrong, starter, done for the year. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, backup defensive end, injured, done for the year. On offense, we know what they've been going through. Obviously, Austin Eckler, done for the year. The receiver room has been a disaster. I can't even think of all the injuries right now that they've had. And it's been impactful. They are a reality. Injuries are probably the number 2 determining factor in a game and in a season. If you don't think that that's worthwhile to at least acknowledge, you haven't been a football fan and haven't watched this league. This league is a league of attrition. The healthier teams end up being the winningest teams in a given season. Sure, there are examples like the 49ers right now of overcoming a lot of injuries. They're 5-2. And of course, Washington's going to have that opportunity. But it's number 2 on the list behind quarterback. Number 2. In terms of a determinant on seasons and on games, injuries, quarterback 1, injuries 2, and then you probably go, O-line, D-line, pass rusher, etc. Washington's been hit bad by the injury bug. And the receiver situation isn't great, but I think it can get better. The defensive end situation on a defense that, can't cover, can't stop the run, and they make up for it by being horrible at tackling, it's a problem to lose Dorrance Armstrong, one of the only really good, consistent performers this season. Feel badly for him, man. He had a great end of season last year, and he was having a season this year, leading the team in sacks with 5.5, leading the team in TFLs, tackles for loss, with 7. He's 28 years old. They'll have an opportunity with him next year, but big loss in the defensive end situation, especially given how they've been run over by DeAndre Swift and then by Javonte Williams on Sunday. This is going to be a concern. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco is probably thinking, I might be able to go for $180 on Monday night against this defense. And then, if they load the box and they start doing some things to try to take the run away, oh boy, coverage, secondary, big problem. I did want to just circle back real quickly on something, and I'll get it out of the way pretty quickly. Where's this email that I had from my guy, Rick? There were a couple of calls and a couple of emails yesterday and tweets from people saying, well, here it is. Rick summed it up for several of you. I'm going to say several of you because I don't think it's anywhere near a lot of you. Rick wrote, Kevin, I'm a huge fan of Jaden, just like you. But I think Mariota played very well off the bench today. He obviously sent this to me Sunday night and has already proven that there's very little difference between in the offense between him and Jaden. So if he has to start a few more games, that's fine. And I appreciate the idea of it's fine if Marcus Mariota has to start games. I don't disagree with you. I think it's a great backup quarterback situation that we have on this team. Marcus Mariota, first of all, is a hell of a person, total class act, totally, acknowledges, recognizes, and embraces his role as, a senior statesman in the quarterback room, as a mentor, and as a backup. He's not looking for, at least now, a starting opportunity anymore. I think he has come to grips with knowing who he is, what he is, and how he can be super effective. By the way, at his age, he could do this for several more years with Jaden Daniels in Washington as the backup. There's no reason that this quarterback room needs to change. Maybe Mariota gets an opportunity. There are always opportunities, but I don't know that there would have been any last year, and it's got to be the right fit for him, stylistically, offense-wise, and this is the perfect fit for him. He is a true dual-threat quarterback and looks great as a dual-threat quarterback. I mean, he looks, like I said yesterday, on those zone reads, he looks like the Oregon Heisman Trophy winning Marcus Mariota. I'm a fan of Marcus Mariota. And if they have to trot him out there on Monday night, I feel good that it's going to be a professional effort. But all due respect to those of you who think he played well on Sunday, I don't know what game you were watching. I said this yesterday to a caller, I think, who brought it up. I mean, he had a couple of good runs on those zone reads, excellent runs. And that was it. Maybe a throw or two. He had the lowest, for whatever it's worth, okay? And I'm with most of you on this. PFF is a tool, Pro Football Focus. It is a tool. It's not the end-all, be-all. But Pro Football Focus had him as the lowest-rated offensive player in the game, 21 snaps. His QBR in the game was 7.4. That ain't good. So I don't know what you were watching, Rick, and some of the others that looked at Marcus Mariota on Sunday and said, that looked good. That looked really good. No, it wasn't good. But in his defense, he had the same limitations that Jaden had at wide receiver. When he came into the game, it was 34-15, basically game over. Okay, so it wasn't an ideal situation for him to come into. I'm not killing him because he didn't play well. I'm just completely mystified as to why anybody would watch that game and say, we're fine with Mariota. We're good. No, we need 5. You know what's interesting? After I went back and watched the game yesterday, and I watched the All-22, painful, by the way, and I'm going to pick apart one specific play on the show today, the 74-yard touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb. Because one of the things, and I'll just get this out of the way, there was actually some decent coverage in the game. Amos had a couple of decent coverages. Lattimore had a couple of decent coverages. He did. The pass at the end of the first half to Pickens, I don't know how you cover that any better than Lattimore did. But one of the things that I, really saw, and I said this yesterday on the show, we have seen a lot of games now, with Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels, this offense. 20 last year, and what do we have now? 5 this year, right? He has started 5 of the games. Giant game, Green Bay game. 4. He started 4 of the games, right? Mariota started the Raiders game, the Falcons game.
That's it.
That he just started 2. So Jaden started 5 games this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and Mariota and Jaden played a half game against. Yeah. So Giants, Packers, Chargers, Bears, right? Cowboys. My fault. We've seen a lot of those games where, didn't look great, up and down, roller coaster first half, only to really find their stride and hit their rhythm in the second half and unload on somebody. I honestly believe after watching, the game, I think they were on the verge of having a really good half offensively. I don't know that it would have been good enough because they couldn't stop Dallas. It's kind of like the Philadelphia NFC title game. I'm just bringing up one example of the offense actually didn't play badly in that game. The turnovers obviously killed them and the mistakes. And the mistakes in this game killed the opportunities they had on offense too. Too many penalties, too many drop passes, and then ultimately 2 turnovers. But they had, roared down the field at the end of the first half for a touchdown to make it 20-15. More on that drive coming up when I get to sort of upon further review segment today. And then they're on the move, in the third quarter, down 27-15. Would have been nice if it was 20-15 or 23-15, but they're in the midst of, a 6-7 play drive. Jaden on that 3rd and 2, had got to the sideline, stretched the ball out, moved the sticks. They did try to run the football a little bit, with Krosky Merritt, and he got stoned on first down. They actually ran it on 2 first downs on that drive. And then, it's a 3rd and 10, and Jaden does Jaden stuff. Pressure, extends, and then throws to Chris Moore for 15 yards to move the sticks. They're at the Dallas 39-yard line. Next play was the free runner, the sack, the fumble, done. Ball game. At that point, it felt like ball game. 27-15. You knew it was going to be 34-15 or 30-15, given the field position that Dallas had. But they were on the move there. And I think I tweeted at halftime, they're going to need 24 minimum in the second half to have an opportunity. And I think they may have been headed towards that kind of second half. They had in the first half, they did have 15 points, which in 214 yards, through 30 minutes, that would extrapolate out to 30 points and 428 yards of offense for a team that was a bit disjointed. And I agree with that. And after watching the game again, they were just out of sync. Everything was a little bit out of sync. And I will guarantee you that behind closed doors, without using it as an excuse, they would tell you it was a bit rough at wide receiver. The guy that ended up leading our team in catches, Robbie Chosen, has gotten 10 total reps since he arrived here, or whatever the total of number of reps he's probably gotten. It's probably been minimal. And then, you're facing a team that recognizes that they can actually play man for the first time this year because the receiving threat isn't a big threat. Yeah, this was a game in which they missed not having at least one of the two, Debo or Terry. Having both of them out, we now know is problematic. But problematic means a little bit disjointed, a little bit out of sync, but 15 points and 215 yards in 30 minutes. And on the move with a chance to cut it to 27-22 in the third quarter. So I do think that there was some good out of the offense, just out of sync, but it wasn't a terrible outing. They just self-inflicted mistakes, penalties, drop passes, and then the turnovers came in the second half. By the way, on that sack, I don't know who would get the blame for it, but there's a free runner. It could have been on Jaden to not identify it pre-snap. It could have been. Let's get to a what do you got? So I've been meaning to get to this. We are going to go kind of around the rest of the NFL from the weekend because we did not have a chance to do that on the show yesterday. And we're going to give you guys a chance, again, to weigh in with calls on the show today because we didn't get to all of you yesterday. But did you see what Kansas City did to the Las Vegas Raiders? I've never, in all of my years of being an NFL fan, I've never seen a box score like this, ever. You see this in college a lot, in totally lopsided games, not in the NFL. So the Chiefs beat the Raiders 31-0. Let me start with this. Here are the Chiefs' first 4 drives of the game offensively. 9 plays, 92 yards, touchdown. The drive took 5 minutes and 46 seconds to accomplish the touchdown at the end. 17 plays, 84 yards, 8 minutes and 40 seconds of elapsed time was their next drive, their second drive of the game that ended up in also a touchdown for a 14-0 lead. And then their last drive of the first half was 16 plays, 94 yards, 6 minutes and 22 seconds. It also ended in a touchdown and a 21-0 lead. The Chiefs had the ball 3 times in the first half. They ran a total of 42 plays, and they had 21 points, 3 touchdowns, and a 21-0 lead. They opened up the second half with an 11-play, 65-yard touchdown drive that took 6 minutes as they built a 28-0 lead. And then on their 5th drive of the game, late in the third quarter, 9 plays, 66 yards, eating up 4 minutes and 26 seconds. They had to kick a field goal. They didn't get a touchdown. Mahomes actually threw incomplete on 3rd down, and they had to kick a field goal for a 31-0 lead. Here's the box score. I've never seen anything like this. First down totals. The Chiefs had 30 in the game, 30 first downs. The Raiders had 3. The Chiefs ran 77 offensive plays in the game. The Raiders ran 30. 30. That's it. In an NFL game, they ran 30 plays. Like something in the 40s is super low for an NFL game. 30 is unheard of. The Raiders were 0 for 7 on 3rd downs, 0 for 1 on 4th downs. So their 3 first downs in the game, Chiefs had 30, the Raiders had 3, came via penalty and 2 throws from Geno Smith. The time of possession advantage for Kansas City, they held the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds. The Raiders had it for 17 minutes and 52 seconds. Geno Smith was 10 of 16 for 67 yards, then took a seat. He had a 7.7 QBR. Not good. Kenny Pickett came in and completed 2 passes on 2 attempts for 8 yards. But that's okay because they could run the ball, Kevin, right? No, 11 carries for 25 yards in the game. The final yardage number, 434 for the Chiefs, 95 yards for the Raiders. And understand this, the fourth quarter, the Chiefs just ran the ball and punted. That's what they did. They just ran the clock out. And by the way, the Raiders did the same thing. It was one of those situations for those of you who, participate somehow in youth sports. The game in which, one team, a basketball game, one team's leading 42-6 in the second half, and they decide to go to a running clock. What is a running clock? That means during free throws, it's running, out of bounds, it's running. It's just a running clock. The only way to stop it would be with a timeout. And that is to make the game go quickly so that you don't get beat 88-6. The final score will be something like 52-8 or something like that. That's almost probably what they were thinking about doing. Pete Carroll may have asked for it. Can we go to a running clock here in the second half? The Chiefs, Washington's Monday night opponent, beat an NFL team worse than I think you can ever beat an NFL team. Not score-wise, but statistically. By the way, score-wise, they could have named their score because they didn't even try late third quarter and fourth quarter to score. But you're catching the Chiefs coming into this game Monday night off of the most one-sided dominating performance of the season. The Raiders, by the way, are bad. And remember, we beat them with Marcus Mariota 41-24. They are a horrendous football team this year. Pete Carroll's got a long way to go. Chip Kelly, not very impressive as an NFL offensive coordinator. Just really never has been. He's a college guy, man. Stay in college. But they have now won 2 in a row, 4 of their last 5. the Chiefs have, with the one loss being that Monday night loss to Jacksonville when Trevor Lawrence, got tripped and somehow got up and ran in for a touchdown. Tough game Monday night, no doubt. The line is 10.5. 10.5. All right. I've got some upon further review stuff that I want to get to. I want to focus in on one play, and I want to focus in on the end of half situation, which was actually a little bit less egregious a day later for me anyway. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. You can watch the show on the Team 980's YouTube channel. When you get there, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. That helps us out a lot.
I don't know if it was worse than I thought, but I thought the game really took a turn. At the end of the half, we scored a touchdown to go, and then coming back to allow a touchdown at the end of the half. That was the hardest part. I sensed that going in, but that was the spot that that left the biggest mark for me. the ball security of, having a fumble and then the interception, obviously that they ran back for a score, not creating those, in that spot. Those were a couple of things that stood out to me, Tom.
Yeah, he was asked if anything the day before. I think he was asked by Tom Shad from the Washington Post, if anything from the day before, after watching the game on film, if anything was worse. And he focused in on the end of the first half. And I want to start there with just sort of upon further review, because I was tough on them yesterday. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to let them off the hook, because there still was an error made. I think an error, although perhaps it wasn't. But it's actually interesting because there was a lot of conversation with like Brady, on the broadcast. What are they doing? They're scoring too quickly. They have to bleed the clock. They can't leave Dallas with more time. They've got a chance to kind of double dip, score at the end of the first half, get the ball to start the second half, and all of a sudden, they've got the lead. Potentially, if they can get a touchdown to end the first half and a touchdown to start the third quarter, it would have been 20-15. If they bleed the clock, get the ball to start the third quarter, and all of a sudden they've got the lead in the game. Well, they didn't bleed the clock in part because there was only one play in which they took 8 snaps where the clock was running. That's so. They snapped the ball 8 times, and on 7 of the 8 plays, the play ended with the clock stopped because of an incompletion, because of a penalty, or because of a play that ended out of bounds. Now, I guess you could say, well, stay in bounds. I mean, this isn't the end of the game. I mean, 2 of the out of bounds plays were Jaden scrambling. Do you want him to, slide and potentially take a hit in traffic, or do you want him to get out of bounds and not get hit? I'd prefer the latter. There was the incredible run by McNichols, the 19-yard run where he breaks 2 tackles. He's kind of stumbling, but he regains his balance, and he's actually going to try to score, and he ends up going out of bounds at the 1-yard line. So, I was Brady was very adamant. What are you doing? Well, the clock stopped, Tom. The play went out of bounds. The clock doesn't run on a play that goes out of bounds. On an incompletion, the clock doesn't run on an incompletion. On a penalty in the final 2 minutes of the half, final 5 minutes of the game, the clock stops. So they didn't have opportunities to bleed the clock. They started the drive at the end of the first half, minute 56 left, their own 32-yard line, down 20-15. And McNichols catches a pass out of bounds. Jaden scrambles for 14 out of bounds. Jaden throws incomplete. Clock stops again. The next one was the deep shot to Robbie Chosen after the offsides, and they took the free shot. Jaden did to go deep. Should have been defensive pass interference. Actually, in hindsight, kind of would have been better had they called that and Washington had scored with a lot more time left on the clock. Then after Dallas's score, Washington would have gotten another possession with some time left. But anyway, that stopped the clock. Jaden then scrambled for another 5 yards. There was also an illegal contact penalty on the play. That stopped the clock. Then here was the one opportunity to run the clock. A minute 22 to go. They're at the Dallas 27-yard line, 1st and 10. And he throws over the middle to Jalen Lane. By the way, one important thing I didn't mention. Even with the clock stopped, they were going up tempo. They were going hurry up. And I said this yesterday. If they didn't bleed the clock with opportunities to bleed the clock, and they said, yeah, we understood that, but we felt our best opportunity to score a touchdown was to go up tempo and to go hurry up because we were gassing them defensively. They were exhausted. We kept the personnel on the field we wanted to see. I would understand that answer. 100% understand. Yeah, you're going to give up too much time to Dak and company with your defense on the field after you score here, if you score here. But if you think that's the best way to score, then you got to do that. So they were going up tempo and hurry up even with the clock stopped. But on the throw to Jalen Lane over the middle, got down to the Cowboy 20-yard line, they went hurry up again, and they snapped the ball with 21 seconds left on the play clock. So that's the opportunity right there. That was the opportunity, if they wanted to bleed some clock. You know, the play ends at 1:17 and they snap it with 21 seconds left on the play clock going, hurry up. And the next play was that big run by McNichols down to the 1 yard line and he got knocked out of bounds to stop the clock. The next play was the touchdown. That also stopped the clock. When Jaden got the bad snap, decided not to give it to McNichols, thankfully, or to Bill, to Krosky Merritt, and he kept it himself and he scored. So there was one play on that final drive, just one, where they had a chance to bleed the clock. Unless you think Jaden should have been sliding down inbounds. Dallas also had 2 timeouts left. Now, would they have used the timeout when Jalen Lane caught the ball over the middle? Well, they didn't right when the play ended, and they saw Washington going quickly. Washington could have gotten to the line of scrimmage and could have taken, the last 20 seconds off that clock, 21 seconds off the clock, and snapped it. And I don't think Dallas would have used a timeout because I think they thought they were getting, up-tempoed. And if you take those 21 seconds and apply it to Dallas's drive after Washington kicks off, there would have been 19 seconds for them, 1st and 10 from their own 28 instead of 40. Would 19 seconds have been enough time for them to get a touchdown? Well, it didn't take them much time anyway. They had a 30-second drive, okay? 35 in total if you count the kickoff return. They literally took it from 40 seconds down to 10 seconds, 45 on the kickoff. And it was, an easy, ridiculous drive for a touchdown. Although I will tell you that the 44-yard pass to Pickens, that may have been Lattimore's best coverage of the day. That is the perfect throw into, literally dropping it into a small bucket. Dak Prescott to Pickens. But then the next play was the Javonte Williams run for 33 yards. And it's like, they're in the end zone and it's 27-15. Now, if they had bled those 21 seconds, that was the opportunity. So it wasn't like this massive, oh my God, they're snapping it with 20 seconds left on the play clock and the clock's running. No, there was just one opportunity with the clock running. So I give them, I take them off the hook a little bit. And I think they would also tell you that they felt like they had a huge advantage. That run by McNichols on the next play when they snapped it with 21 seconds left on the play clock, Dallas's defense was tired, and that's why he broke 2 tackles and was able to get down to the 1 yard line. So that would be part of their answer, I'm sure. But, from a pure clock management situation, context of the game, which is you got a chance here to double dip. You got a chance to score, then get the ball to start the second half, score again without them really having an opportunity in between. That was the opportunity. Now, with 19 seconds left, had they bled the one play that ended up in bounds with the clock running, Dallas still would have gotten into field goal range. I mean, they only have to get to the 50-yard line for Brandon Aubrey to come out for, we may have seen a record kick. They were going to get into field goal range, and it was going to be 23-15 at halftime, but that's better than 27-15 at halftime. But 19 seconds, even with our defense, which is pretty brutal, that would have been a hard ask to go 72 yards in 19 seconds for a touchdown. The other issue is just the way they played that last defensive possession. Man, it should have been, we know they're going to get 3. We just can't give them 7. And they didn't play it that way. I have one more kind of upon further review I want to talk about, and I'll do that when we come back. But the 74-yard touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb was really one of those plays that you really need somebody from there to explain it to you. But, man, they have some weird stuff going on in their coverage. That's for sure. I'll get to that next. John Keim will join us at 11.
All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We start off with the MLB in the postseason with Game 7. The Mariners and the Blue Jays locked in a tight one last night with the Mariners leading 3-1 in the 6th inning. Then right-handed relief pitcher Brian Wu walked the first batter, gives up a single to put 2 runners on base, and playoff hero George Springer stepped up to the plate and crushed one. No doubt to deep left center field. to give life to the Blue Jays, and they lift themselves over the Mariners by a score of 4-3. To Monday Night Football last night, the Detroit Lions got a win over the Tampa Bay Bucks by a score of 24-9. Jahmyr Gibbs with a banner night, 218 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. Then the Seattle Seahawks, they beat the Houston Texans 27-19 in a wire-to-wire victory. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba with the performance of the night in this one with 8 receptions, 123 yards, and a touchdown. To hockey, the Caps get underway tonight against the Seattle Kraken at home. Puck drop at 7 p.m. Pre-game on 106.7 The Fan will be 6:30 after Grant and Danny. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type of the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
So there was a big play in the game, early in the game, a first quarter, by the way, that just lasted forever on Sunday. Dallas had 4 offensive possessions in the first half. Washington, in the first quarter, excuse me, Washington also had 4. That's crazy, to have that many possessions in the first quarter of a game. I think I mentioned this on yesterday's show. The 15 combined possessions, Dallas had 8, Washington had 7. Technically, Washington had an 8th, but they knelt down on their final drive. With by the way, 10 seconds to go from their own 35-yard line. From their own 35, maybe their own 25, something like that. Whatever. There was 10 seconds left, and they knelt down and half-ended. But after Washington went, after the safety and the touchdown drive that followed, that gave them an 8-7 lead. The next drive was one of those drives that, basically was derailed by a drop pass. Ertz just dropped one on the sideline for what would have been a 7-yard play and would have set up an easy or a very makeable third down. Dallas takes over after, one of those booming, punts, 56-yard punt by Tressaway. God, he's good still. He's still really good. And their punt coverage is excellent. And Cavate and Turpin's, nailed, and it's like a 52-yard net flipping of the field. Great job by the special teams. And so Dallas lines up 1st and 10 from their own 26, and we get the bomb to CeeDee Lamb. We see Quan Martin and Marshawn Lattimore do their, weekly ritual of running into each other. And, CeeDee Lamb basically jogs into the end zone for a 17-8 lead. So this is one of those plays, man, that, God, I can't imagine they're not pulling their hair out. Now, I could be totally wrong, per usual, heading into one of these kind of discussions. But Washington plays some weird coverages. They play a lot of this cover 3 that looks weird, that the spacing and the number of players in the same area sometimes just looks off. This is why I think some of this is scheme. Some of this is, coaching. And I'm sure a lot of it is personnel and execution as well. Okay, I am convinced that it's a lot of everything going on here. But Darnell Savage, who actually played pretty well last week, I think is the culprit here. They basically do their inverted cover 2. They run a lot of that, where they basically show something and they drop into cover 2, or they show cover 2 and they drop into something else. And you got Wagner running in the middle of the field, which is typically, some cover 2 stuff where you get the linebacker dropping and then you get that big hole. You guys know what cover 2 looks like. If you're not running the football against cover 2, you're throwing it down the middle of the field, typically over the linebacker's head and in front of the 2, deep safeties. Wagner, by the way, bless his heart, can't run anymore. Just can't run. They're going to have to look at that as a major liability. And at the same time, they're probably like, you don't get it, man. If he's not out on the field, you have no idea how much worse it would be in terms of he's our highest IQ guy by miles. He's the coach on the field. And, oh, by the way, he's still a hell of a tackler in the box and a run stopper in the box. And not bad as a pass rusher occasionally. This play, though, is like CeeDee Lamb is running down the middle of the field, and Darnell Savage, I think, was supposed to have him, but doesn't. And figures it out too late. Wagner's running. I don't think he's got that deep of a coverage. The biggest problem with this play, though, more than the coverage, which looks to be blown to me, I'd say it looks like a blown coverage. It also is weird that Dallas has a bunch of receivers kind of not spaced out completely in the right way in the middle of the field. And CeeDee Lamb just runs right through the whole, thing. But there's no pass rush at all. Against the Chargers, there were receivers open the entire game. And they found him in those first couple quarters. And then even, before the Sanderstill interception at the goal line, it was easy pitch and catch to Keenan Allen. But what they did do in the Charger game against that, banged up offensive line is they got pressure. They just didn't get enough pressure. Dak Prescott has plenty of time. I mean, he never even comes close to being touched. And it gives CeeDee Lamb all of this time to run right through what looks like the blown coverage into a space where, believe it or not, the ball is about to be caught and then he's about to be nailed. But Sanderstill and Quan Martin do their little thing that's gotten kind of cute to watch, where they run into each other. That play, I would love more of an explanation. I am convinced it's a blown coverage by Darnell Savage. I'm also convinced that if you're going to play the kinds of coverages, you better be sure that you can get home with 4, because they've done it at times, but only against the teams that had major offensive line issues. And they didn't sniff Dak Prescott, not even close. It was Goldman, it was Newton, it was Miller, and I think it was Kinlaw, who were the pass rushers. It may have been Sheldon Day, actually. May have been Sheldon Day who played in the game, and they got nothing. I'll tell you what, man, it's hard to get anything if Kinlaw and Payne aren't on the field. All right, John Keim next.
Dan, with those big plays keep happening, how frustrating, and first of all, why, I guess, and then, but just how frustrating is it that game after game they keep happening?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. We're looking at everything, man. We're going to look at everything to, have a play that goes down the field and you throw over your head or a good battle, like I can live with that one. But the ones of the big explosive plays that I can't put my finger on, that's a lot for us to dig into. If I had one specific reason, I'd say this or this. But yeah, we got, like I said, a lot to get better at, and it's definitely frustrating.
John Keim firing away right after the game on Sunday. He also had a follow-up question yesterday in the Monday press conference, asking about sort of, okay, you said you were going to look at everything, so what did you see? Well, he pushed that answer back until Thursday. John joined us right now. John, of course, covers the team and has been covering the team longer than anybody has. ESPN's John Keim, at John_Keim. I want to start with that because I played that piece of sound yesterday. I heard what you asked yesterday, and, I'll just net it out, and I think you'd agree. He essentially said, yeah, we're going to dig into that tonight, meaning we haven't really dug into looking at everything quite yet. But we're going to look into that tonight, and knowing that we don't get to hear from him again until Thursday because of the Monday night game. So what do you think they're going to find when they look into everything about this defense?
I think, first of all, I think they already know. Like, they can dig into it some more, but there's 7 games of evidence here of what's going on. Monday night digging into it is, I think you have to discuss things and go over things, but how, you've seen the same issues week after week, and sometimes they're kind of different, but the results are the same. So what you're going to see is it's a myriad of things. I mean, do you want to say injuries a little bit? Yeah, sure. Like, you've lost now your 3rd defensive end, but Dorrance Armstrong was still out there and they were really bad. And so, his impact is going to be great moving forward because he was having a very good year. So that, there's a little bit of that there, but there's also the run fits are really inconsistent, and the run defense has dropped. It started off all right, and it has dropped the last couple of weeks. So why is that? And I think, again, is it run fits? Is it what they're being asked to do? Is it, the big plays being allowed? I mean, for a while it was communication. You'd see guys go in motion against the Packers, and they couldn't handle that. And then they got better with that aspect. But then there's other ones that pop up. I think it feels like, you plug one hole and another one springs a leak. And that's kind of what it feels like. And I think, to me, Kevin, whenever you have it like this, it's an organizational failure. Did you bring in the right guys? Are you coaching them the right way? Are they just not good enough, or are they not? So what is it? But I think what Quinn will always say in this is it's not one thing, which I would agree with. I don't think there's one easy solution here. I don't think there's like this player mutiny on the coach or anything like that. But it's, I don't, to my knowledge, right? So, but it doesn't get this bad without a lot of help from a lot of people.
Yeah. So I agree with you. They obviously aren't digging into it for the first time last night to say, oh my God, we're having defensive problems. What do we do about it? The question is, for you, what do you think they're going to do about it?
Honestly, I don't know, because what are the things that you can do now? Like, who are you going to play more that's going to come in and make?
Well, let me lay out the options for you, okay? Because I did this on the show yesterday. 1, he could do nothing. 2, he could look at Joe Witt Jr. and say, we're going to move in another direction. I'm not saying fire Joe Witt Jr., but to, elevate somebody else to coordinator, play caller, maybe even take it over himself or assign it to somebody else. That's option 2. Option 3 is, meaningful personnel changes. Option 4 is both. They do something with the coordinator. They do something with personnel. So which of those 4, I think I've laid out the most obvious of the 4. Which of those 4 do you think that they decide to move forward with after they've looked into everything?
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to do any, I don't think they're doing anything with the coordinator. Because again, I think he knows that it's more than just, it's not as simple as that. Now, what could happen too, Kevin, is does Dan Quinn get a little bit more involved, because that is the area of his expertise. That's how he became a head coach, with all that. I don't know that will happen, but that's something that could happen. It could be like in the past, they've kind of restructured some of the ways they've gone about practice, gone about the way they've implemented some things, Joe Witt has talked about that last year and this year about little changes in that area. It could be some of that stuff, although I don't know that that's going to result in the grand changes that you want. Could it be that you tweak some of the way you do your run fits, or the way you play this run? Does it have to be changed because certain things aren't working, right? You see too many times 2 guys in one gap. Why is that? So is there something you can do there? I have a feeling it'd be more of those kind of changes than anything, something grand at this point. Because I don't know, like, what big change is going to result in the way you want. Not that you don't do anything. You can't just throw your hands up, right? I just don't think they're at that point where they're going to make that kind of change. And personnel-wise, I know everybody wants to talk about Marshawn Lattimore. The problem is, like, he's not the only one messing up in the backfield there. And, it's different. It feels like it's somebody different each game. So, and can you do something there? You can do whatever you want. But the other problem is that I've always thought is that they have 5 corners on their roster. I guess 6 now with Hamilton, but like they have their top corners, 3 of the top 5 are all better suited or have shown that they play better on the inside than the outside, right? So like, but Jonathan Jones can play outside there. Mikey Samuel did play outside there, but listen, man, like he's had his own issues inside. So, I don't, that's the hard part here. And then you lose all these defensive ends. So now what are you going to do there? And is there a different way you can apply? Can you apply more pressure to generate more turnovers? That's the other thing. Like the turnover stuff is ridiculous. But, so I don't know, Kevin. I don't know that it's going to be some big changes where it's like, oh, wow. I don't know if it's going to be that. I think it's going to be a lot of subtle things behind the scenes and maybe tweaking the way you do some things to see if that works to get you through to the bye.
You're out there every day. I just watch these things. I thought he looked about as pissed off as he's ever looked on Sunday after that game.
Definitely. And I mean, there were times very stern, very short with the answers, not short in terms of like, just rude, but just like, I think it was Nicky asked him if he I can't remember the question was, the answer was yes, about his frustration. Like, yes, very. Surprised where you're at. Yes, very. And it was just that. Like sometimes he might expand on some things, like that was just yes, very. And then I asked him about the play right before the series right before halftime. He's basically like, words can't explain. I was hot. And that was a ridiculous series, right? And it was just bad. I mean, on multiple levels, execution. You can look at what 2nd and 17 and giving up a 44-yard pass. Are you kidding me? So like,
I'll tell you what, that was one hell of a throw, and actually was one of Lattimore's best coverage plays of the season.
I agree. It was a phenomenal throw.
Yeah.
But you're basically like MVP type quarterback having an MVP type year, receiver having a Pro Bowl type year, corner having an up and down year. Like, who are you? And again, it was a dime, like no doubt about it. And Lattimore was not like he was beaten by 3 steps. He was right there. It was a perfect throw, but and that's what it takes to beat you on that one. But still, like you're also inviting it as well. And so, it's just, that's what I say. I think it's a multitude of things. That is there one sweeping change that could rectify it? I don't think I see that. Honestly, what needs to happen to the defense is the offense needs to get healthy.
Yeah, I think the other thing too about the end of the first half, and I talked a lot about the offensive possession. You guys aren't watching it this way, but Brady was critical of Washington not bleeding the clock. They actually only had one play in which they could have bled the clock, and it would have been meaningful had they done it on the Jalen Lane throw over the middle. But 2nd and 17 after that sack, you got to rush 3 and play, way deep. Let Brandon Aubrey kick a 64-yard field goal. Just don't give up the 7. And so there's a lot of that stuff going on. But back to when he said, and I think everybody's ears perked up, I'm assuming yours did too, when he said, we're going to look at everything, essentially implying everything's on the table when it comes to this defense right now. And that's why yesterday I was very interested to see, and of course he pushed it to Thursday, that's fine. But if he comes out Thursday and it's just, there's some things we're going to do to with the run and some of our coverages, and there's no bombshell. I'm not suggesting there needs to be, But I kind of thought that maybe there could be something big coming. But here's the problem, John. You can go to these last two games and you can say it wasn't all on the defense. The offense turned the ball over 3 times against the Bears. That's the number one reason they lost was turnover margin. Yep. And then on Sunday, 2 more turnovers, drop passes, penalties. You know, that was a big role. Yeah. Well, if they were losing 44-41 in back-to-back games, maybe something big's coming.
Right. And so, like, you know, even like against the Bears, my point was that, the offense, it was 3 turnovers is a killer. You're also allowed to stop them. You know, like
yes, you are. You are allowed to do that.
Bad. Like, there is no rule against that. So, like, you know, it's always like one mistake doesn't have to compound another. And so that's, and the problem is it's negative complementary football, right? And like one side turns it over, puts you in a bad spot, then the other one gives up points. You know, even though it's not, you're deep in your own territory, you turn over at your own 20, like, they're going to get points. You turn over and they set the 30, the opposite 30, you don't have to give up points. You know what I mean? Like, so, but it was bad complementary football. And then this week, you know, you knew the offense had to come out and be almost perfect. Now, without McLaurin, without Debo, it's just tougher. Like you're throwing to Robbie Chosen, who was good several years ago. You know, you have Chris Moore, who is like, you know, he was practice squad. Nobody picked him up until so you're throwing to guys that aren't threatening, but yet you still can move it if a couple guys catch it. And Jaden was not as accurate as he normally is in some throws. You know, for whatever reason, whether it's timing with receivers or just off, whatever the reason, the accuracy wasn't the same. And like that all adds up. And so, you know, the defense forced a safety. They got a safety. They forced 3 punts, which is a couple more than I thought they might. So they did do some things to at least, you know, give the
I think the fourth quarter. I don't think Dallas is. They've taken the foot off the pedal. But you're right.
Sure. Listen, Dallas could have ended the score, and I'm not blaming the offense for the loss. Like the defense wasn't stopping them. They gave up 3 big plays, but the offense had to be perfect, and they were unable to do that way.
Yeah,
it's a tough way to live.
Yeah, back to the idea that okay, the offense. Like on Tuesday, I'm just like, look, 5 bailed you out time and time again over all of last season. How about after that fumble, that botched handoff, you don't let DeAndre Swift run it right down your throat for 34 yards into chip shot field goal range. With a kicker who's shaky.
Yes, exactly. That's my point. Like that doesn't have to happen, and it's sometimes it's just the way you're playing that run too. That pin pull, which hurt them all game, right? So like there are things that can be could have been rectified with that D to stop that. Like they gained 36 yards on that drive. They didn't. That wasn't. They have
insane.
I mean, yeah. So like it's crazy that. But this is some of the stuff that like last year they were on the opposite end of that game. And so
what are they going to do? Because I opened the show today saying the loss of Dorrance Armstrong. Some people might say, well, what's the difference, man? The defense is brutally terrible, and it could get worse because Dorrance Armstrong's had one hell of a season. But more importantly, what are they going to do at defensive end? They don't have any. They don't have any first down defensive ends, really. I know Martin's been playing there. What are they going to do?
I don't know. We'll find out. I don't have a good answer. That's one where I think they really were trying to talk about last night because like, what do you do? Like, who are you bringing in today? And
Jalen Holmes, right? The guy they released.
Yeah, the guy they released, and I thought like, well, maybe he'll play some more defensive end on Sunday. Then they release him. So because he can play. They've been using him a lot at tackle. But you can play him at end. Like you can, they use that big package at times with Kinlaw at end, but then you could do some more of that, but that's like, he's wreaking havoc inside. They would like to keep him there. Preston Smith as as a full-time guy, it's just a hard way to go at this point with him. So
how about this, John?
Right.
How about this? Remember last year when they were having all of the edge issues and Duran ended up getting moved outside occasionally.
Well,
I mean, could they move Duran or even Kinlaw to D end?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they would use those 3 defensive tackle sets. So one of them has to play defensive end.
Yeah.
Last year was Duran. This year it's been more Kinlaw. And so, you could do more of that because you can put like you can get a bigger lineup in there with some pass rushers because you can put Jacob Martin with that group, which they've done. And that creates, like, then you have guys who can rush the passer, but also can play the run. So you can do more of that, yes. How often you want to do that? And then I think it's also sometimes, like, some teams you're going to do that a little bit more. Like when you play the Eagles, you want to stop the run. So you're going to go more with that kind of look, plus with probably more 3 linebacker sets with Jordan McGee out there.
Yeah.
But that's very game plan specific versus a change in overall philosophy. So you could do more of that, yeah. And yeah, because Von Miller's also out there too, but Von Miller's supposed to be the closer.
Yeah. What do you think about Jordan McGee? Every time he's out there, and I understand the Bears played a lot more 11 personnel, which kept,
right.
them in nickel more often. But what do they think of Jordan McGee? Because I'll tell you what, every time he's in the game, no matter what the snap count was, and I think he was in there for more snaps on Sunday than he was for any game so far. He's an athlete.
21.
Unlike Bobby Wagner, he can run.
Yeah. No, I listen, like you feel his energy out there for sure. Yes. And so, like, I know he was hurt by the injuries last year.
Yeah.
And I think that, that certainly, I think, gave them pause to just say, okay, we're going to turn over the keys to him in the middle. But I think that's the way they view him, or at least had viewed him, was a guy that could at someday replace Bobby in the middle. Now, whenever that is, whether it's next year, whatever, it's at some point that's what they need to see. And I don't know right now, like, it's still, you're right though. When he's out there, you feel it. There's one game he played 5 snaps, and I went back and watched all 5 of them. You feel that. You see him making some plays. And there was one game where he missed a couple of tackles that would have been really big plays for losses, but he was in position to make them. And I think that was against Atlanta, maybe. But
I think the Chargers game was the game where he kind of flashed.
Yeah, for sure. But it was the Atlanta game where he played 5 snaps, and like you see, and like, okay, those are good 5 reps, and then you get more. And so, but yeah, no, like, I am intrigued by him but what I don't know at this point, Kevin, is like, okay, it's one thing to be out there with Wagner and Luvu. It's another to be out there in charge of everybody. That's a different ballgame. Like, what does, is he at that point where he can do that? I don't know. But I do know that when he's out there, you feel him. And I think at some point you're going to want to see more of him.
All right, John Keim, of course, that's the voice you recognize, joining us right now. So, look, the defense, big trouble right now. Big trouble, especially considering the opponents. Last year, the opponents were not daunting. This year, they are, and they got big issues. So the only way, I think, if we're looking at this sort of macro-wise, the only way that they can go have themselves a season is if the offense ends up becoming what it was last year, and they end up, becoming the team's best defense by scoring and maintaining the football, and they're not healthy. But let's start with that. What do you make of Jaden's MRI results being, coming back very promising, nothing serious? Do you think he misses Monday night or not?
Well, first of all, it was promising that it's not long-term.
Yes.
That's a key thing, right? And what we also know is with hamstrings, you have to be very careful because you don't want it to turn into something worse. So, I would not be surprised. I don't know at this point, but I would not be surprised if he misses Monday night. It's not, and what is it, Tuesday? We'll get an update on Thursday. But as we sit here now, like, I'm not going to be surprised if he sits out Monday night, but don't know that for sure. It's just that, like, that becomes a logical conclusion based on injury. Now, the good thing is he was walking fine in the locker room after the game. And again, like, the MRI showed nothing significant. That's all good. But that also, like, missing a week means it's not significant. It just means now you're out a week at a time where this team really needs to find some sort of momentum. That's the hard part with this offense. Kevin, since training camp opened, it's been like this. And it's like nothing has changed. Terry misses all of camp. Noah Brown misses a lot of camp because of his injury. And so in practice, they never look like they had this great rhythm because you're missing 2 of your 2 outside guys, including a guy who, was in the Pro Bowl. and then he comes back, and then they're not in sync, and then they get hurt, and it's just, then you lose Eckler. It's been like this since camp opened, and so you just wonder, will it ever turn for them?
On the play in which he got injured, they're on the move at that point, and they'd scored at the end of the first half. And I said yesterday, and even emphasized today, I mean, how many times last year did we have, maybe a roller coaster start to the game, up and down, and then all of a sudden, look out, they're rolling in the second half. I think that was actually in play. I think that they were, they had caught their stride a little bit. They were rolling. I don't know if it was going to be enough to come back and win the game because you couldn't get a stop. But, on that particular play, he's going to throw to Ertz, and there's this free runner. Did you go back and look at that? And I'm just curious if you learned anything about why there was a free runner. Was that on Jaden, or was that on something else?
Well, that I don't know. Here's what you see. So first of all, Ertz is going to be open on the slant. Like that's
totally. He's going to throw it if the guy isn't in his way.
Exactly, and it's funny because someone's like, he's got to throw that ball. He had no chance.
He had no chance.
The guy is in his face, and so he's pulling it down to try and get away from the guy, and the guy just makes a great play. But there was a slight – it's not like the guy was coming at the snap.
No.
And the line, Tunsil kicks out, then the guard, Paul blocks down, so the line is sliding that way, the other way, and I think it just surprised him that this guy came. That's how that when you watch it, that's what it looked like. Because a lot of times, like, he's pretty good knowing when there's a free rusher coming, typically.
Yeah.
And you saw that a few times the other night. Like, you have this guy coming off the edge, he's unblocked, you're going right over here with the ball. And I think, like, if so I think, like, that's why I say I think that blitz caught them by surprise.
Okay.
For sure.
As it relates to him not playing potentially on Monday night, and let's consider that as a distinct possibility. I mean, I don't want him to miss any games, and I'm not hey, if you can't win that game anyway. Of course you can win that game. Every NFL game is winnable. But sure. I think but the way it sets up, if he's going to end up missing just one, it's better that it's against an AFC opponent like the Chiefs on the road, where there's going to be a short turnaround after Monday night to come back home on a Sunday night and play Seattle. So maybe that's part of the thinking, is what I'm asking you is, there's a short week that follows off a Monday night game. If it's even close, do you think that they'll just opt for the safest in that scenario, knowing that it's more important to beat Seattle and Detroit at home the next 2 weeks, or to have a chance to beat those teams?
Yeah, and whether or not they look at it that way, I think if it's close, they'll err on the side of caution with him. Because again, with hamstrings, if you go out there and it's worse, now you could be looking at something really bad. So I think if it's close with a hamstring, you're going to err on the side of caution. To your point, though, like if you're, I can hear people making the Jim Moore impression, but if you're looking at the playoff race, and it's too early still for that, but if you're looking at
playoffs,
like exactly, like, and I know I can hear people saying, "What are you kidding me? You're crazy!" Like. Maybe I'm a little bit, but like if you're the team, you're 3-4. Your NFC record is really bad right now, so you can't afford any more setbacks there if you have any hope of getting hot in December and maybe getting into a wild card berth, because you've already lost to Green Bay, Atlanta, Dallas, like that's
and Chicago.
Not good, and Chicago. Like you're almost, to be honest, like at this point, if you don't win the division, it's going to be really tough to get in.
Yeah.
The way it looks right now, right? Like,
we got a long way to go, but the Seattle and Detroit games at home, and then then you get two more AFC opponents, but you're going to need those too. But those games are actually more important than the Monday night game against Kansas City. They just are. But
I mean, they need to win any game right now. But yes, in the overall, when you're looking down the road, those NFC games are going to matter more.
So who are they going to trot out at wide receiver Monday night? Will Terry be back?
Dude, I've been thinking. I thought he was going to be back last week, so I don't know. I'm kind of tired of trying to guess that one. Mm-hmm. It did sound like it was very close. So you would think if it was that close and closer than it had been, if it was that close, then you would think this week it would be the week. I think the question is, will he and Debo be out there together? like, because that's what they need. Like, just one of them is not going to be enough anymore. And so you need both there. But again, like, I didn't know it was going to go this long. And again, if it was close, really close last week, then I think you would start to assume that, well, it would have to look better this week. But at this point, Kevin, arms up in the air. We'll see.
Why is it taking this long?
Soft tissue. I also think, when you're a receiver and you're a fast guy, like, I just think it's a little bit different than if you're a defensive lineman or someone else, like, where it's like you're not as reliant on your speed. And if you feel anything, then if you don't feel like you're playing at the speed you need to, then maybe it's just tougher. But it's, soft tissue. It's always tricky with those.
I saw that you retweeted yesterday the Schefter tweet that Tennessee wide receiver, former Seattle wide receiver, Tyler Lockett.
I don't know anything.
I've always been a fan of Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, me too.
Has asked for, and he has received his release from the Titans. He's expected to be free to sign with another team after 4 p.m. on Wednesday. So, Do you think they'd be interested in the Tyler Lockett?
I mean, why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to get Kendrick Bourne, who would have looked really good here, and they actually made an offer, and he chose San Francisco. But so why wouldn't you want to look at a guy that is, is probably still better than what else you have that's beyond Terry and Devo, but those guys are banged up. So it would make sense. The question is, if you're Lockett, where would you want to go? And, obviously he played for Seattle for a long time. I don't know that they need receiver help. Ties with Pete Carroll, but I don't know. And if you're Lockett, what are you looking for? Are you looking for one more contract after this, or are you trying to finish up your career in a better place? So I think there's a lot of factors there, but why wouldn't you be?
I mean, we're not Siberia anymore. It's more attractive than it used to be.
Oh, for sure. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just wondering, okay, so if Jane's injured, does that make a difference? But he's going to be there, so you have a quarterback you can play with, and it's a good offensive system. Like, listen, man, so we're talking about the offense. They've actually produced pretty well given what's happened this year.
Yes, they have.
They've lost. You have to look at that and say, yes, this is conducive to this. And there are going to be opportunities because, when Terry and Devo are back, well, those are their top two guys. But do you have that established third guy now? Like Noah Brown, I thought was a good third receiver for them last year. He's hurt. He's going to miss 8 weeks. And what's it going to look like when he comes back? And he missed most of training camp. Like, you can't count on that. So you need to go, if you can find someone else, then it behooves you to find someone else. So there is an attractiveness to this position. It's not like they're 2-6 and they're playing, a fifth round pick.
Exactly.
This is not a bad situation, but at all. But if you're looking somewhere like, I'd like to go help a contender, well, right now you can't put them in that category right now. So I don't know, that's what I say. Like, if you're looking to put up some numbers, you're going to get some opportunities here if you can. But
Kendrick Bourne's actually played really well in San Francisco.
And again, my understanding is that they made him an offer and that they definitely were interested in him. And he went back to the team that he once played for. So, but yes, that would have been a good ad for sure.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for doing this as always. Hope you're well. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
John Keim, everybody. Kendrick Bourne, 25 catches in 6 games. He's the second leading pass reception receiver on the 49ers so far this year. Christian McCaffrey has 53 catches. Christian McCaffrey's having one of those seasons, by the way. He is so crucial. If you've got Trent Williams, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, and Kittle just came back, you got a shot in San Francisco to still be super productive on offense. That would be interesting. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., this isn't the worst place anymore. And offensively, even though it's been inconsistent and it's looked at times to be disjointed, and a lot of that probably has to do with the revolving doors at wide receiver, and even some of the changes in other spots. Still trying to figure out the running back situation. Krosky Merritt is not a front runner, as most of you thought he would be through 7 weeks for Rookie of the Year. So we'll see. I would think Terry is got to be soon. Debo, having Terry and Debo there for Mariota, if it's Mariota Monday night, will be massive. They need to give him something. By the way, if not, we're going to turn into a college offense Monday night. It's going to be Mariota 18 rushes minimum. By the way, not a bad way to play. All right, coming up next, what was I going to do? What were we going to do next? Oh, we were going to go around the NFL next. We did not have a chance to go through all of the games, and there were some really good ones, including in the division, the two other division teams playing games that were rather exciting. We'll get to those, go around the NFL, give you guys a chance to weigh in next hour. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Team 980's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button when you get there.
The biggest plays and clutch moments.
Oh, look out! Touchdown! A miracle!
It's time to go around the NFL.
With Jurgens dealing with an injury. Deep drop for Hurts, trying to find something downfield. And it's Devontae Smith. He's loose. He's got it. He is gone. Touchdown, Eagles. Lightning strike to Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith, career day, 9 catches, 183 yards. A.J. Brown, 4 catches, 121 yards. Jalen Hurts, a perfect passer rating at 158.3. A near-perfect QBR at 95.1. He was 19 of 23 for 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks on a day where, once again, they could not run the football. Saquon Barkley, 2.4 yards per carry. Do you guys know what Saquon Barkley's averaging yards per carry this year? 3.3 yards per carry. Last year's 2,000-yard plus rusher, averaging nearly 6 yards per carry. This year, it's almost 50% of that. It is rough for Philly to run the football, but just when you least expect it, they need the throwing, Jalen Hurts version, and he puts up one of the games of the year for a quarterback. And so many of those were big plays. The first touchdown was a 4th down touchdown pass to A.J. Brown. Others were big 3rd down plays. They beat the Vikings 28-22 to stop a 2-game losing skid. They had lost to the Broncos, blowing that lead, and had gotten pummeled really by the Giants on Thursday Night Football. I'm going to tell you, man, going to Minnesota, that is a tough place to win. I don't care who's playing for them. Carson Wentz, had another rough outing at times. He's Carson Wentz. He's going to make big plays, and he's going to take some big sacks and make a couple of terrible throws. He had 2 picks in the game. But the Eagles, I can't figure them out. We may have to stop trying, because defensively they did get Jalen Carter back. By the way, he was huge in what turned out to be a pick 6 for Philly. I don't know. It's week in, week out for the Eagles, but they're sitting atop our division at 5-2. But against a Brian Flores defense on the road, that crowd is insane. For Jalen Hurts to drop dime after dime on deep balls, crazy. When they need him to do it, in a real big spot, in a big game, and a have-to-have, it seems like he always delivers. And then you watch him on a Thursday night in the Meadowlands against the Giants, and you're like, he's not very good. Philadelphia, 28-22 winners. They get the Giants, so it's 2 against the Giants in 3 games for both of them. They get the Giants Sunday at the Link. Speaking of the Giants, an all-time blown game in Denver on Sunday.
Stacked in at the line of scrimmage. It's a 3rd and 5. They come up the middle. Heavy pressure in the throw. Intercepted. It's picked off by Strnad. He breaks a tackle. Breaks another. Now inside the 20. Oh, disaster. What a play. 21-yard return. Strnad comes up with a pick.
Kevin Harlan on the call. That was a disaster. Let me give you the setup for that. So the Giants had legitimately dominated the Denver Broncos, who came into the game winners of 3 in a row, including a win in Philadelphia over the Eagles. They were down 19-0 entering the 4th quarter, and were down 26-8 after kind of a fluke touchdown pass, with 6 minutes to go in the game, down 26-8. Denver scores a touchdown. They go for 2. They convert. It's 26-16. And that interception happened with 4 minutes and 56 seconds left in the game, with Denver holding 1 timeout. So you're up 10 with 1 timeout left. If you run the ball, they'll call the final timeout. If you don't get the first down, you'll punt it. And then Denver, with 4:40 to go, will need to score twice. They'll need to score a touchdown, and they'll need to kick a field goal. But they'll have no timeouts left. So more likely than not, given that they'll have to travel kind of the length of the field to get it done, they're going to have to recover an onside kick to actually complete the comeback, if it even gets to that point. And the Giants put the ball up in the air, and Jackson Dart was picked off. They scored 56 seconds later. They didn't have to kick an onside kick. And then the game got even stupider down the stretch. They scored. The Giants then came down and scored. And then after a missed extra point, Denver got into field goal range, and you had the walk-off winner. 33 points scored by Denver, all of their points in the game in the 4th quarter. That was not a misspeak. They won the game 33-32 in all 33 of their points, all of them, including, by the way, 27 of their points in the final 6 minutes, but all 33 scored in the 4th quarter of the football game. That is pretty insane. The Giants kicker in for Graham Gano over the last few weeks missed 2 extra points in the game. I think the Giants are a good team. I think they are a good football team. I know they're good defensively, even though they gave up 33. Of course, the turnover contributed a little bit to that. But it's the first time in NFL history, by the way, anybody's scored 33 after scoring none in the first quarter, scored 33 in the fourth, and won the football game. They got some resilient dudes. This guy, Bo Nix, we're not talking a lot about him. Obviously, last year was all about Jaden. This year, it's all about Drake May so far and some of his performances. But Bo Nix, man, has that ability, and he is really, really effective as a designed runner, option runner, and scrambler. He had 2 touchdowns rushing in the comeback over the New York Giants. Do the Giants go into a hole? Is that just such a devastating loss they can't recover? Or do they do some of the things they've been doing? Running the football, Jackson Dart, not super high completion percentage, takes a bunch of sacks, but he's making plays. And then they got a defense. There's no doubt they got a defense. The Giants and Eagles coming up. The Giants would have been right there with us at the bottom of the division at 3-4. And they would have appeared to have been the team on an upward trajectory. Instead, 2-5 after a devastating loss against the Denver Broncos. Another tough place to win. Let's go to Arrowhead for Washington's next opponent.
He looks left, throws left, and it is caught by Rice for his second touchdown of the game.
Rashee Rice's return was a good one. He's a really good receiver. They've missed him. 7 catches, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns. A game that I've already talked about. By the way, they targeted him like 12 times in his first game back. Mahomes didn't waste any time. But I already talked about the box score of this game. Netting it out, it's one of the most lopsided box scores you'll ever see. 434 yards to 95, 77 plays to 30, 30 first downs to 3. Kansas City was never stopped until they stopped themselves. They went touchdown, 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 field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, they just ran the ball 3 times, or 6 times, and just wanted the clock to run out so that they didn't hurt anybody on the other side. How bad are the Vegas Raiders? I mean, that's one of Washington's impressive wins. They are a bad football team. They have lost now games 41-24 to Washington, 40-6 against the Colts, and 31-0 against the Chiefs. Pete Carroll's first year not going that well. Chiefs and Washington Monday night at Arrowhead. The best team in football, the best record in football right now is owned by the Indianapolis Colts.
It's a good coach right there. It's Taylor on the acceleration. Touchdown.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because Tampa last night lost at Detroit. But the Colts are 6-1. They lead the league in scoring. It was, really not even this close. 38-24 was the final score. At one point, they led 31-10, 23-3, 38-17. The Chargers, after their fast start, are now 4-3. They started 3-0. They've now lost 3 of their last 4. That's a team reeling in the offensive line area. Herbert threw 2 picks in the game, also threw for 420 yards. But the story of the season right now, the Indianapolis Colts, and the season that Daniel Jones is having. Another outstanding day for Jones, 23 of 34 for 288, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Jonathan Taylor leads the league in rushing, another 3 touchdowns for him. Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, is likely right now going to be your offensive rookie of the year. He's been outstanding. They have great balance. Shane Steichen does a pretty good job. But Daniel Jones, if you're not following this now, with a 6-1 football team, is perfect in this balanced offense that uses his legs when he needs to, but he's got a lot of options to throw the football. That team is loaded at wide receiver and at tight end, not to mention the back that they have in Jonathan Taylor. Indy gets to 6-1 on the season. You can go back and you can say, well, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Titans, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Cardinals, they pummeled the Chargers, and up next they get the Titans to get to 7-1. So Indianapolis right now looks like the AFC South might be theirs to run away with. They've got the largest point differential in the league, something that is often an indicator this time of year as you're trying to figure out who's good and who isn't, not necessarily only by record. Look at point differential, plus 92 on the season. The next best is Detroit at plus 64, 28 points fewer than Indy's point differential. Do I think Indy's going to win the Super Bowl or get to it? I don't, because Patrick Mahomes resides in the AFC. And I think as long as they're in the postseason, that's a tough ask. But wow, what a season Indianapolis is having. All right, we'll finish up going around the NFL when we come back. At 12, we will get into a couple of things, including the games last night and the baseball thriller in Game 7. How about George Springer? Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app.
All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. We start off last night with MLB Game 7 in the postseason. Mariners and Blue Jays locked in a tight one with the Mariners up 3-1 in the 6th inning. Then Brian Wu walks the first batter in the 7th, gives up a single, put 2 runners on base, and playoff hero George Springer steps up to the plate and crushed one to deep left center field to give life to the Blue Jays and lift them over the Mariners by a score of 4-3. Plus, Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions, they get the win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 24-9. Jahmyr Gibbs with one hell of a performance, 218 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. Then the Seattle Seahawks, they beat the Houston Texans 27-19. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba with the performance of the night in this one with 8 receptions for 123 yards and a touchdown. Tonight, the Caps get underway against the Seattle Kraken. Logan Thompson in line to get the start tonight. Pierre-Luc Dubois out, dealing with lower body injury still. Pregame underway at 6:45 on 106.7 The Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
First and goal from the 5. Why not? Gibbs again. Spinning touchdown.
Jahmyr Gibbs, pretty good. There's some good running backs in this league, man. 136 yards last night, 2 touchdowns rushing, also 3 catches for 82 yards in the game. The Lions beat the Bucs in the first of the last 2 game Monday nighter schedules. They won 24-9. Big part of this game is Mike Evans getting injured and maybe seriously. He could be done for a big portion of the rest of the year. Baker Mayfield was off last night. You know, we've talked about Jaden being off here and there. Boy, was Baker Mayfield off. He was high all night, not high with his passing last night. Threw a pick, could have been picked another 2 or 3 times, you know, took sacks, 28 of 50 for the, you know, MVP, one of the MVP front runners in the game. He'd come in, you know, with a, you know, pretty high completion percentage. Rough night for Tampa. They get beat by Detroit 24-9. Tampa at 5-2, Detroit at 5-2. Those divisions really interesting because right now Green Bay at 4-1-1 is actually ahead of Detroit. And Tampa at 5-2. You know who's in second place in that division a game back? Carolina. The Carolina Panthers are the team currently in second place. They play Tampa twice, but at the end of the season. What about the other Monday night game last night? Houston at Seattle.
Running behind a heavy formation and just walking into the end zone.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker the third, Zach Charbonnet. Those guys are good at running back. Seattle, I mean, it's Kansas City for us and then Seattle on a Sunday night. Really good football teams, followed by Detroit the week after that. This is the part of the schedule that's going to tell the tale. Darnold, though, you know, gave it up a couple times, had a fumble that was recovered for a touchdown, had a bad interception. Houston is one of those teams. Their biggest issue is they have no offensive line because they have some playmakers. They have a quarterback that's okay in Stroud. Their defense, though, Will Anderson is an absolute animal. You know, to go, you know, one end with Danielle Hunter on the other, that's a really good defensive team. Houston, for those of you that stayed up like I did have a chance for a backdoor cover or even, you know, a potential touchdown to get on the board, tie with a 2-point conversion, but they lose 27-19. I think the Seahawks are a contender in the NFC. They are 5-2 with the 49ers and the Rams. How about the NFC West? 3 teams at 5-2. Let's go back to Sunday night football, the Falcons and the 49ers.
They close it out. And here he is on the run. Inside. Pushing the pile to the goal line. In for the touchdown.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, 2 touchdowns, 129 yards rushing, 72 on 7 catches in the pass game. He is having himself a season. It was another Mac Jones game. Look, Atlanta has some issues at head coach with the management of the game. They have it. I love Penix a lot. He right now is riding that roller coaster early, you know, part of his career. 1 week looks great against our defense, obviously. Against a better defense in San Francisco, he did not look good at all. Really couldn't find people, made bad decisions, had an intentional grounding penalty at the end of the first half that cost him a chance at points. 49ers were awesome defensively. In that game, by the way, if you're curious, I am. Penix Jr. got banged up at the end. They're calling it day-to-day. It's possible that Kirk Cousins could get the start Sunday against the Dolphins in Atlanta if Penix isn't able to go. The Falcons fall to 3-3, and the 49ers, again, a part of that 3-team, first place tie in the NFC West. All of those teams at 5-2. How about the Packers eking one out over the Arizona Cardinals?
Who fakes the handoff to Jacobs and now throws, and it's taken in for a touchdown by Kraft.
I thought one of the craziest decisions of the day was the decision that Matt LaFleur made And he made it on a 4th and 2 with 2 minutes and 32 seconds left in the game with his team down by 3. They're at the Arizona 29-yard line. They are in easy field goal range. Easy, 46 yards now is easy in the NFL. They're down 23-20. 2.5 minutes to go in the football game, and they went for it. He explained afterwards, he said, Matt looked like he was kind of upset that they hadn't gotten the first down and looked like he really was going to go after it on 4th and 2. If they don't convert that 4th and 2, which they did, by the way, on not an easy play, like the first option wasn't there, the second option wasn't there, and then he found Tucker Kraft, the tight end that killed us on Thursday night in week 2, and he barely got both feet in for a big play that ultimately led to a go-ahead and game-winning touchdown. But have you noticed as NFL fans, teams just are going for it on 4th down willy-nilly all the time. Field goals they seem to be allergic to, unless they're exciting 60-yard-plus field goals. That is not an analytics go-for-it situation. There's no way it could be. No way. You have to take the points and tie the game up. If you don't convert, you lose. I think they had some timeouts left in the 2-minute warning, so it's possible they could have gotten the ball back. And I'm sure that's part of the calculus, but weird. They won the game. The Packers are a weird team right now. You know, they're capable of some really good stuff. Micah Parsons, by the way, had 3 sacks to close out that game. They're 4-1-1. They play the Steelers this week, Sunday Night Football. So the Packers against their former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I wanted to get to one game here to finish up. Let's get to it quickly. New England at Tennessee. I want to talk about Drake May.
May taking a deep shot down the field. Booty is down there. Touchdown. What a catch. Kayshon Booty.
Drake May makes some incredible plays, and I'm talking about incredible off-schedule plays. There's a lot to like about Drake May and the season he's having. You know, there are a couple of things. They beat the Titans 31-13. By the way, I thought Cam Ward I think he's going to be okay. It's a long way to go, clearly, with his 7th start, but he can throw the football for sure. The Patriots are 5-2. Okay, they are 5-2 football team. Their best win was obviously at Buffalo on Sunday Night Football, but they've beaten the Dolphins, they've beaten the Panthers, they've beaten the Saints and Titans. They get the Browns this week to get to 6-2. They're a big favorite. But this team is a couple of things. This team is, number 1, well coached. Vrabel is legit. Number 2, they are good on both sides of the football. They are good defensively. They can cover. Christian Gonzalez was the pick, not Emmanuel Forbes, who's playing, I think, pretty well with the Rams right now. They have weapons. Adding Stephon Diggs for them was huge. Diggs, 39 catches on the season for 456 yards. He has been a massive weapon for the young quarterback in May. But make no mistake, they can run the football too with Stevenson. Drake May looks legit. Now, a couple of things, because this was the second game, because I watched a lot of the Saints game the week before. There are a couple of things. He still occasionally, as a young quarterback, will hold on to it too long, and he'll take some sacks. He took, I think, 4 sacks Sunday against Tennessee. Tennessee's not that bad defensively. He also, does get hit a lot and puts his body at risk a lot. He looked like he was completely concussed on a play. And that, like with our guy, health and availability is the most, is the biggest ability. And I wonder how that will hold up, but he's got a stronger frame. He's 230 pounds. Jaden's 210 or whatever he is. But Drake May's start to this season with a really good coach, a great coordinator in Josh McDaniel, very, very impressed. This is a team, when you look at their schedule, a last place schedule, they're kind of doing what Washington did last year, taking advantage of a very weak schedule, but being a much better coach team than they had been previously. And he's playing at a very, very high level right now. I think they've got a chance. They've got, the the Browns. They've got two games against the Jets. They play the Bengals. They play the Giants. They play the Dolphins. I think they're going to get to 10 wins, and they're going to push Buffalo for that division. He's been a fun quarterback to watch, and he is, for those that really liked him, after Jaden and Caleb in front of J.J. McCarthy, as an example, because remember how many people had McCarthy after Jaden? He's making you look good. He is great off schedule. Really, really good off schedule. All right, when we come back, is the season salvageable? 3-4, 2 straight losses. Is this season salvageable? And I'll define it this way. When I say salvageable, at this point, given that they are 3-4, that means at the very least, they go to the final week of the season with a chance to make the playoffs. They either make the playoffs, worst case, they go to the final week of the season, early January in Philadelphia, with a chance to win and make the playoffs. That is salvageable the way I am defining it. Is the season salvageable? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show. Is the season salvageable? Oh, boy. Who had that after week 7? They are 3-4. They've lost 2 straight games. They lost to the Bears on Monday night, 25-24. Remember how good we felt after Jaden was back and they pummeled the Chargers 27-10? That seems like 2 months ago now. 2 games in 6 days produced 2 ugly losses. The Bears game because of 3 turnovers, 3 hideous turnovers, and a defense that looked even worse than we thought it might be. And then it all came together in a bad way on Sunday when the defense looked like maybe the worst in the NFL. And it took on more injuries. Maybe their best defensive player, Dorrance Armstrong, out for the year. And they got absolutely, housed by the Cowboys 44-22. So they are at 3-4. And I think part of, what people has people down, and I predicted this on Friday, if they lost to the Cowboys, everybody's going to look at it and say, well, 3-4 is going to become 3-5 because it's the Chiefs. And then it's like, oh my God, Seattle, Detroit come into town. Yeah, they're home games, but two really good teams. Then you get the Dolphins in disarray in Madrid, and then you come home for a Sunday night or Thanksgiving weekend against the Broncos. This is the most brutal stretch of schedule of the season. At Cowboys, at Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions, Dolphins, but in Madrid, and then Broncos on Sunday night. So I know that there are people out there that are bailing, that you guys think this season, chalk it up to, year two and some bad luck. Last year, they had all the luck. They were injury-free for the most part. They overcame, whatever it is they had in their way. This year, injuries, the bugs bit them. And they got a bad defense again, and they didn't, do enough in the offseason, all that stuff. I want to know if you think it's salvageable, though. And again, my definition of salvageable for the purposes of this segment is it's a season that they either end up making the playoffs or, worst case, they go to Philadelphia in early January for the season finale, needing a win to make the playoffs. So they're in the hunt until the very final week of the season where they've got a chance to make it. 301-230-0980. I'll answer it first, and then I'll let Max answer it. Of course it's salvageable. Of course they could be in the mix at the end of the year for a playoff berth. 100% it's salvageable. It's week 7. They've taken on a ton of injuries, and they didn't have a roster capable of dealing with a lot of those injuries. Look, some of them you can't do anything about. They're done for the year, especially on defense. That's my biggest concern. I said coming out of the Chicago game, I have one big concern that is season long, that the defense, which many of you believe to have been shut down great after wins over the Giants and the Raiders, and a decent performance against, an absolute decimated Chargers offensive line. I was like, this defense might not only be bad, it might be worse than last year's. And that's saying something. And they needed it to be better this year. Didn't need to be great. Needed to be better, because we knew there was a good chance, based on the way the schedule laid out, that they were going to be playing much better teams, that they weren't going to be playing Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener and Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson and Andy Dalton and Tommy DeVito or whatever. I don't have the whole list. Kyler Murray. They weren't going to be playing those guys. They were going to be playing Dak Prescott, followed by Patrick Mahomes, followed by Sam Darnold and what he's doing in Seattle, and Jared Goff, and, Jalen Hurts twice, along with Dak Prescott in the final 3 weeks of the season. But yes, NFL seasons with teams that have the ability at the quarterback position like this team does are salvageable. Now, you might look at it and say, they're just the Cowboys, but without the weapons. And you wouldn't say the Cowboys are going to be a playoff team. I don't know if they are or aren't. I mean, they're really good on offense. And Washington is not where Dallas is offensively. We don't have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. We don't have that offensive line right now. We don't even have the tight end. But yes, it's salvageable. It's salvageable because, look, if 5 is hurt and it's going to be in and out of the lineup, it's not salvageable. Okay, it's not salvageable with Marcus Mariota starting, let's just say out of the final 10 games, starting 5 of them. That's not a salvageable season, and I love Marcus Mariota. I feel like I have to give that disclaimer. I really like him as our backup quarterback. But it's salvageable if Jaden gets healthy and gets back for the Seattle game, and you got 9 games left as a 3-5 football team, with the next 4 not including a road game. Seattle at home, Detroit at home, Miami and Madrid, Denver at home. That's the stretch. You got to win 3 out of the next 5 If you lose Monday night, that's 3 out of those next 4 to get to 6-6 entering December. And if you can do that, it's more than salvageable. Now, I think the NFC is a problem. I've talked about that all year long. I don't think anything worse than 10-7 can get a wild card berth. And, last year, one 10-7 team, Seattle didn't make the wild card. 11-6 was the worst wild card record last year. Let's not forget that. Green Bay was 11-6 and the 7 seed. Washington was 12-5 and the 6 seed. Minnesota was 13-4 and the 5 seed. So in this year, you got 3 5-2 teams in the NFC West. You don't have one team in the NFC North that has a losing record. So wild card, you're going to have to minimum get to 10. 6-6 in December has them in the division race with still 2 left against Philadelphia and a game against the Cowboys and a game against the Giants. Yes, it's salvageable. I wouldn't bet against this particular group. I think they are, led by a badass competitor, and I think they've built the culture that way. It's a rough stretch right now, hard to overcome all of these losses, and a rough schedule ahead. But yes, it's salvageable. Am I predicting it? No. But there's no way through 7 games with what they have, maybe coming back on offense, I don't see this as being season over. I think they could easily go to Philadelphia on January 5th or whatever it is with a chance to win and either win the division or somehow snag a wild card spot at 10-7. Remember, the second Dallas game is at home. In December, if they can get to December 6-6 at Minnesota, who knows where the Vikings will be at that point. At Giants, then the Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. And you'd have to win, 4 of those final 5 to get to 10 and probably have a shot. Not discounting that as a possibility at all. Salvageable. Max, salvageable, yes or no?
I'm a lot less confident than you are. Now, of course, anything can happen. Jaden Daniels is on our team as long as he is healthy. Yes, anything is possible. But when you look at this defense and you look at these next 3 opponents, the Chiefs' offense finding their stride. Seattle's offense has looked good all year. JSN's going to light our secondary on fire. He might go up for 200 yards.
He might have a 200-yard day.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Yeah. So I've prepared myself for those next 2 weeks. And then you got the Lions coming in, and they are coming in with a vengeance and a chip on their shoulder because of what happened in the divisional round. So you really could be staring down the barrel of 3-7 going to Madrid to take on the Dolphins. Now that would make that game an absolute must win. But that, again, as you said, 6-6 going into December, that would put that out of reach. So you got to win one of these next 3. I just don't know which one of those it will be because a lot of these defensive issues, it doesn't look fixable with what the injuries are. Like you said prior in the show, like there's no edge containing defensive ends on this team anymore. Dietrich Wise down, Dorrance Armstrong gone. So I don't think it's as fixable as we like to think it might be. But so at this point, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to kind of start to look at selling some things in the deadline just to kind of build the picks back up with what you lost, giving it up for Lattimore and Debo. But I'm really not that sure with how it's going to go. I don't think it's the salvageable.
3-7 would be a pretty difficult, thing to get out of for sure. So and you're right. Like the only hesitance I have is just, well, if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, the season's over, we move on to next year.
Correct.
Like if he's going to be in and out of the lineup with 10 games left, if he plays 6 of them and sits for 4 of them, forget it. Season pretty much done. But if he's back, then the concern really is I don't see a fix to the defense. Like I don't see like us saying in 3 weeks from now, wow, that turned around defensively. No more coverage busts. The pass rush is getting home. They're stopping the run. I don't see that as a real likely.
It would be,
I don't even see that as that's actually off the board at this point.
Yeah, it'd be a miracle. Like Hail Mary type miracle.
But we know in the NFL, you can overcome that,
happen.
Another 7 times out of your final 10 games if you have to get to 10 with great offense. We'll see if it happens. All right, phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. Is the season salvageable? Again, my definition for the purposes of this call segment is they make the playoffs, or at the very least, worst case, they go into the season finale needing a win in Philadelphia to make the playoffs. All right, so they're in it until the final week of the season. James in Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, brother. Happy Tuesday, Kevin, man.
What's up, James?
Commanders, man. Big time all the time, every time. And I just want to say real quick, man, I've been picking up on your podcast. And, man, I love hearing you talk about Washington, man, Tommy, and the guy doing the film breakdown. There's some great times, man. So I really enjoy that. But going forward, man, that's exactly why I was calling you today, Kevin, man. Just trying to look forward ahead to the season, right? And if we say, just for argument's sake, that they lose to Kansas City Monday night, it's going to be a tough ask. They got to go 7-2 the rest of the way to get to 10-7. And the only way that's going to happen, man, is if Debo and McLaurin come back and stay healthy. I think the offensive line with the addition back of Cosme can really do something for them. But offensively, man, like you said, they got to become that juggernaut. And then defensively, man, I really like the idea of putting Payne on the outside because he is a tough run stuffer, and he can obviously got some quickness with his size, man. For me, though, I'd like to see him play more quarters, and maybe with Wagner, man, put him as more of a spy rather than a coverage. Kind of let him just sit there and watch the quarterback's eyes, man. I don't every time the burgundy and gold come on the field, I love it, and I can't wait for week 9 when we see the uniforms, man, and see what they look like. So, hey, man, I love everything. Kevin, keep rolling, man.
Thanks, James. Appreciate that. If they lose to the Chiefs, yeah, it would be 7 out of the last 9. They'd have to go 7-2 over the last 9 to get to 10. They started the season last year 7-2. They have to be healthy on offense, obviously. For them to make a run, if they were to lose Monday night, they've got to be healthy on offense. And that means everybody. They do have a decent offensive line. They do have, 2 receivers. You need one of them at the very least on the field. But it would be tough, but I think it absolutely is doable, which means I believe the season is salvageable. Do you, Ralphie in Rockville? Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. I don't think the season is salvageable. I think that when I watch the defense, to me, I know a lot of people want to say Joe Witt, but I think that what's going on after hearing Dan Quinn talk, I think that they're running Dan Quinn's philosophy of the defense. I think what you're seeing now, because I watched a lot of the Cowboys when Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator because I lived in Texas, and I'm seeing that is the same philosophy. Cover 3, show blitz, but don't really blitz. But the thing with Dallas, they got a lot of turnovers, and we're not getting those turnovers. But there was a lot of coverage breakdowns in Dallas when Dan Quinn was coordinator. So that's why I think that every time they ask him a question about, alluding to, possibly moving on from Joe Witt or giving up play call duties from Joe Witt, he doesn't really want to respond to that. Or is it really?
Well, he hasn't been asked that directly, just so you know.
Well, yeah. Well, when he said this, we're going to look at everything. To me, it's kind of like, okay. And that's why I think he does that. That's why I think it will be a terrible idea for him to get rid of Joe Witt, because then if the defense is still struggling, people are going to say, "Oh, that was the thing all along. It was Dan Quinn's philosophy, and the defense was this is what it is." So I don't think that it's salvageable from that standpoint. Even if we get Terry and Debo back healthy, I just think that with the injuries that they have, they're bound to get injured again. Soft tissue injury.
All right. Thanks, Ralphie. Your phone's clicking a little bit there, but I get it. And I'm expecting, 70-30 season not salvageable. That's what I'm expecting. It's the NFL. I can't count out a 3-4 football team with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. They've got to be healthy though on offense. And if they're not, this season is going to go south and pretty quickly. Steve in Silver Spring, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm well, Steve. Thanks.
Good. I'm not as optimistic as you, Kevin. I looked at their schedule, and you great up. I love your show because you bring up every aspect of everything. including last year, and that's what people forget. What we faced at quarterback, the luck we had versus the schedule that we have this year, and the quarterbacks that we face this year. We're an old football team, Kevin, and it shows weekly. And we do not have a better roster than the Giants. We do not have a better roster than Philadelphia, and we do not have a better roster than Dallas. And I think people calling for Adam Peter's head and all that. Give that man an opportunity to build a football team.
Yeah, I mean, that's some of the silliest talk I've heard. Dude's been here for 19 months, and in the first year, they won 14 games and were 60 minutes from the Super Bowl. Are you kidding people with the Adam Peters talk? Stop.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Give the man some time to build a football team.
The cupboard was bare when he got here.
Yes. And give him some time to build a team. And, sure, we brought in Lattimore and Bobby Wagner on some one-year deals, brought them back again this year.
Wagner was a big part of why they won 14 games last year.
Oh, without it, he's a tackling machine. Yeah, but he get exposed in the coverage. Absolutely he does. In year 13 or 14, obviously he can't do what he used to do 10 years ago with the Legend of Boom. Everybody ages. But give him some time, but at the same time, this schedule here, from what we're looking at defensively, oh, God, you think Dallas lit us up. Come Kansas City are getting their guy back Monday. They seem on a roll. Seattle is just treading water. They can run and throw it.
Right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, as always. Look, I have not spent a lot of time, for those of you that listen a lot, emphasizing how old the roster is. Because really, the roster, yes, overall average age, oldest in the league. You got Josh Johnson at 39, you got Tressaway at 35, you got a long snapper that's old, etc. But the oldness of this team, really what we're talking about is Bobby Wagner. Right, because the bigger contributors on this team are they're young players. Jaden Daniels, obviously. The running back situation is young. The offensive line situation, is with Chris Paul's 26, right? Tyler Biotish is 26 or 27. Cosme's in his mid-20s. Tunsil, is a little bit older. Tunsil's been great though. So far, Tunsil's been outstanding. And then they got a rookie, at the other side. Ertz, Ertz is older. He's 34. Tight ends do play, into their mid-30s. We've seen that a lot in the NFL. Could they have gotten younger there? It could Sinnott, be a guy that, could have produced more at this point. Okay. I actually think he's blocked well when he's been in there. Payne's still 28 years old. Kinlaw's still 28 years old. Von Miller's old. Bobby Wagner's old. Zach Ertz is old. I haven't emphasized it because still much of their roster isn't. But the average is because you got Josh Johnson's 39, 40-year-old body out there. You got Tressaway who's 35, 36. But you got Wagner and Miller, and Ertz. But it's not, their second oldest player on the team, I think, is the guy Nick Bellore, the special teamer. Do you want to take him off the team? My God, he is an absolute demon special teams player. I don't know. I think look, also, to the caller that said I'm optimistic, let me make sure I'm clear on something. Me saying the season is salvageable and being very, very demonstrative about that, yes, it's salvageable. I absolutely think the season through 7 games is far from over. But optimistic is not probably the way to describe how I feel. I'm not cheery. I'm not, like, oh, this is going to happen. I'm just like, we're far from the moment in which we bury them. I think that would happen with losses to the Chiefs, ugly losses to the Chiefs and Seahawks, and more injuries and quarterback question marks from a health standpoint, give me 2 weeks and I might say it's now no longer salvageable. But at this point, I'm not ready to say that. But don't confuse that with optimism, because I'm not optimistic right now. Anthony, thanks for holding as always. Go ahead.
So, yes, Kevin, it is salvageable. And this is how it has to happen. A lot of people will look at Detroit, they'll look at Kansas City, and they'll look at there was a third team
Seattle.
I can't pull right now. Not Seattle. A
Denver.
Team that's been
2 against
that's been
Philly.
injured. No, a team that's been injured.
San
So
Francisco.
what I'm saying is, yeah, Frisco. So they'll look at those teams and say, well, damn, they managed to stay above water. Well, how did they do it? The reason they're able to do it is because they have a defense.
That's true.
And Detroit has Hutchinson. KC has 95.
Well, Warner and Bosa are done.
Right.
But they've been playing good defense still.
Exactly. And again, KC has number 95, and they play
Chris
excellent
Jones.
defense.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, yes. So the way we have to do it, in my humble opinion, we have to be blitzing, getting off the bus. This is not a good number, but hypothetically, if we have 60 plays on defense, 40 to 45 of those plays, we have to be blitzing and be aggressive. I don't care if it's a run. I don't care if it's a pass. We're already getting the doors blown off of us playing laid-back zone defense. I believe that we should line up every play like we're going to blitz.
Yeah.
And then back out on the plays that you don't want to blitz. But the only way we are going to be able to hang in there is if the defense gets aggressive. Yeah, they're going to give up plays, but they're already giving up plays. You saw how Detroit was in Baker's face all night.
Yeah.
That's the kind of effort
we don't
need.
have Aiden Hutchinson.
No, we don't have Aiden Hutchinson, but
yeah,
we need to be blitzing 6 and 7 people.
Yeah.
If we're going to get beat, let's get beat going forward.
Anthony, I love this, because I do think it's less painful to watch the aggressiveness get beat versus the lack of it get beat. I agree with you. With that said, on Sunday at the end of the half, they should have been in something much more prevent oriented. And they weren't. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind that. It's not like we've got great blitzers either. I mean, Wagner might be our best blitzer. So, people want him off the field. So I don't. Yeah, I think the best defense without question has to be the offense, period. It was last year, and that's the how you salvage this season is. And now, somehow, by the way, the turnover takeaway thing starts to happen for you, because sometimes there's a random nature to that.
But right now, we can't rely on the offense because of our receiver situation.
Yeah,
that's why
and
we
the
need
quarterback
to be
situation, which is in and out of the lineup.
So,
all right.
So that's
I gotta go. I gotta get to a break. I see everybody on hold. Stay there. We'll keep taking calls. The question is this season salvageable? We got a long way to go. I say it is. Salvageable by definition for this segment means make the playoffs, or at the very least go to the final week of the season with a chance to make the playoffs. This last segment was brought to you by Paramount. Football talk on the Team 980, presented by Paramount Plus, as always. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. This segment is brought to you by IHOP, introducing the IHOP value menu, where all your breakfast faves are just $6 each every day. Where else can you get a big, filling, sit-down breakfast for only $6? Go to your happy plates with the $6 IHOP value menu, available every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Are we going to have to talk about this RG3 Jaden's mother thing that everybody keeps asking me about? I was checking this out during the break. What did Jaden's mother say?
So I sent you the here. Let me just pull up the account because I saw a tweet from Ben that said, I totally understand why a parent would want to protect their child. Beyond that, I haven't had a single conversation with a reasonable person who has negatively compared Jaden Daniels to RG3's time here in the past 18 months. So that's kind of what's been going on.
Well, you got to give it to me chronologically. I don't know what
right.
Ben is responding to.
So Jaden's mom tweeted after the game something to the effect of, stop mentioning my son in the same breath as RG3. They're different people.
Whoa. Hold on. Okay.
Sure.
Jaden's mom.
Yes. Miss Jackson.
Right?
Yes.
Regina, I think is her first name.
Yes,
I think
Regina
so.
Jackson.
Also, by the way, an agent now, a certified agent in the NFL. I believe I'm right about that.
Yes.
Jaden's agent. She said, "What? I'm pulling it up right now. I can't. What's her Twitter account? Here it is. Somebody linked me to it. Yeah. I wish you would stop manifesting RG3 on my son. Words are powerful, and that's all that's talked about." And then the praying hands together emoji twice. Is she responding to something? RG3 is literally the most insufferable person on social media. I don't follow him. He ends up in my timeline sometimes. Mm-hmm. But what did he say? Did he start this?
So no, he didn't start this. It was just the fan response after the injury. There were a lot of comparisons made again to RG3, as there have been a lot kind of throughout this year. So RG3 went out and quote tweeted that tweet that you just read and said, "I have always supported Jaden Daniels and want nothing but the best for him. Being QB1 in DC comes with an intense spotlight that I know well. You love your son, and the real fans do too. I want a long, healthy career for him. He will always have my support. Prayer hands." So that's the RG3
Well, I mean,
side
look,
of
he
it.
injects himself into all these things all the time, and it's repulsive most of the time. But that's actually a nice message from him, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so she's responding to people who, after Jaden got injured again, started saying, "We got another RG3."
Essentially, yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, look, I've gone out of my way since before the draft in 2024 to say these two have nothing in common other than they won the Heisman Trophy and were picked second overall by Washington. Like, I don't view their games even close to being similar. Now, the injury thing, RG3 had a much more severe injury history coming into the NFL. He had torn his ACL already, at Baylor. And then I guess one of the things, if I knew her and I would say, just don't participate in this. Don't respond to these people, because what did you say Ben tweeted?
Ben said that he had no conversation with a reasonable person in the last 18 months that negatively compared Jaden Daniels to RG3.
I would completely concur with that. I think the key is reasonable person.
Yes, absolutely.
I get a lot of stuff, as everybody does, on social media, and I just ignore it because it's not reasonable, right? Some people spend a lot of time responding to all that stuff. To me, it's a time suck of all time. I don't know anybody reasonable that I have had conversations with that are like, yeah, they're identical players, or he's got the same, injury issues. Look, the injury thing, if he ends up being in and out of the lineup because he is injury prone, I would say, look, it's hard to say that at this point, 3 injuries in 27 games isn't a concern. It is a concern, but I don't think of it with RG3 in mind at all. And I don't think most reasonable people do. First of all, 2 completely different personalities. One, self-absorbed beyond even what anybody could think of as a person who's self-absorbed. And Jaden appears to be, from afar, the opposite of that. Somebody who absolutely, can play the position from the pocket as much as he can with his legs versus somebody who had no prayer unless he had stuck with the Shanahans, but he was involved in pushing him out. If they had coached him, he may have had a shot, at developing into a pocket passer. Jaden's already there. He came in polished. RG3 unpolished as a quarterback. I don't think that there are many similarities at all other than Heisman Trophy winners. They got picked number 2 by Washington. I know he injects himself into a lot of the Jaden stuff, and I know most reasonable people just roll their eyes and say, oh, my God, enough already. But actually, the message he sent to her, it sounds like, was a nice message. Am I right?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not.
I mean, sometimes he's doing the thing where he projects himself and talks about, make sure, when he got hurt earlier this year, he's like, make sure that they don't put him back out there early. It was all about himself. Yeah. But this one doesn't seem like it's all about himself. Here's, let me just read his tweet because I just found it.
Sure.
I've always supported Jaden Daniels and want nothing but the best for him. Being QB1 in Washington, D.C. comes with an intense spotlight that I know well. You love your son, and the real fans do too. I want a long, healthy career for him. He will always have my support. So he injected himself into this conversation when she wasn't really asking him to, but that's not him, saying, look at me, look at what happened to me. Don't let the same thing happen to him, kind of a thing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think the best thing, honestly, is for parents, no matter, and she obviously is involved as a business partner with her son, and he's the son who she obviously loves very much, and he clearly relies very much on her. But getting involved in responding to mostly unreasonable people on social media isn't the advice I would give to anybody. All right. Have we covered that topic? Let's get back to the topic at hand. Is this season salvageable? And by salvageable, I mean they either make the playoffs or, worst case, they go to Philly, season ender, with a chance to make the playoffs. It means they're in the hunt until the very end. Let's go to Sabah dropped. I was going to go to Sabah next. Let's go to TC in Maryland. TC, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Thanks, Kevin, for taking my call.
Sure.
Kevin, first of all, I don't think it's salvageable. Second of all, I know you like to quote last year so much. Last year was Cinderella finding the slipper, and we won it. Okay, now.
But we didn't win it.
Reality.
We didn't win it.
Well, we didn't win it. We know. I'm talking reality. I'm just saying that. Yeah. We know we didn't win the Super Bowl.
For us, we won.
We had a great year. We had a great. Had a great season. We had a great season as far as record-wise. But the talent on the team is still not up to par. Adam Peters still has to keep developing the talent. He will, but you got to give him time. So what we did so far, being that the injuries we had, we didn't have that injuries like that last year.
Right.
We have these injuries this year. So with these injuries and our defense still underwater, I don't know why anybody thought our defense was going to be okay because of the same thing. I've been telling all my friends the defense is terrible from the beginning of the season. I said that. So the defense is the same. It ain't changed. And the young man called earlier and was talking about he lived in Texas and talking about Dan Quinn's defense when it was the Cowboys. You could run on the Cowboys all the time. There's something to that.
Yeah.
The defense. So I don't know what it is, but it's something on to that. He just had a pass rusher, Parsons. Okay.
Right.
We don't have that. So with the season going forward and the teams and the difficulty of the teams that we have to play, in my opinion, there's no way that we are going to even get to probably 8-9.
Okay.
With that. And that's
all right. I hear you. And there was a lot that was truly Cinderella about last year. But the thing that was most important about last year's season was the quarterback. He carried the team to 14 wins and the NFC Championship game on his back because they had a bad defense. They had, obviously, by the way, they had some injuries too. You know, one of their best players on offense last year really was in and out of the lineup all year, in Austin Eckler. But yes, it was against a different. It was. I'm sorry.
He was Superman last year. He's not Superman this year.
Well,
last year. That's what I'm saying.
He still could be Superman this year. That's trust me. I wouldn't say it's salvageable if I didn't think he could be Superman this year. I think it can definitely still happen.
Okay, what I'm saying to you, it's kind of naive of you to think that he could be Superman every season. He's not going to be Superman this year. You got to have some more help around him to bring it along.
If you're truly elite, every year you have a chance to be Superman. You might be right there. This could be. Let me wrap it up for us because I do want to get to other callers. Thank you, TC.
Right,
this could be just one of those seasons that we look back over the 10-year career of Jaden Daniels and say, it started with all the injuries. The schedule was brutal. They turned the ball over too much. They couldn't get takeaways, and they went 8-9, and they didn't do it. And maybe this will be one of those. Maybe we're in the midst of one of those. That is definitely in play, no doubt. G, go ahead.
Technically, it's salvageable, but it damn sure don't look good, Sheehan. And I'm tired of hearing about RG3. I'm tired of hearing Jay Gruden. I'm tired of hearing about Jaden Daniels' mother. I'm tired of hearing how defensive-minded Dan Quinn is. I'm tired of looking at Dan Quinn looking confused because he looked like a coordinator that just got a head coaching job. I ain't too happy with the game plan, but Joe Witt can't make nobody tackle, and we missing tackle after tackle. So that means we fundamentally football stink. You know what I'm saying? I'm mad at the people calling in talking about it's Terry fault and he robbed us. I'm glad Terry did get his money because if he had got banged up like he did, would nobody be banging on the door to pay him what he got? I'm tired of hearing Sabah call in talk about how good Drake May is. And see, I told you, he's not going to stay healthy. I'm tired of all of them. Tired of everybody. Just win. Just win. Winning makes everything easier and better. And winning will make me be able to take a call from Mark from Largo talking about his Adam Peters, man. I'm tired of everything.
You're the show documentarian. Like, you are the guy that remembers everything from every caller, and I love that about you. So, but answer the question, is it salvageable or not?
I said technically it's salvageable.
Okay.
But if we don't show some type of urgency, Jaden Daniels, I'm tired of seeing your little grin like we can come back from every deficit.
Right.
Like I need him to get healthy, but damn sure it ain't looking too good, Sheehan. It ain't looking
I know,
good.
but you know that it's not salvageable or salvageable because Mark and Largo's calling in talking about stuff that's crazy and Sabah's talking about Drake May. Those aren't things that are going to prevent the team from digging out of this hole.
But see, that's why I'm with you, what you just said to the last caller. Put that Superman cape on people that wear that Superman cape, because I can't remember no top 5 receiver Lamar Jackson has had throughout his career. I can only remember one top flight receiver. I'm not talking Kelsey, I'm talking wide receiver and my man Tariq, and they didn't even bat an eye when he left, when they let him go. So real Superman save civilians, and they make civilians look successful. Save us because we need some saving.
I agree with that. But the one thing that you point to in the situations you just gave me, right, and you can even point to Buffalo last year, is all of those teams had excellent defenses. And we may have the worst in football this year.
No, that's the other thing, Sheehan. I'm tired of hearing defensive-minded coaches when you just said it. I think our defense has got worse, and that's what should have improved this year, and it definitely looked like it's – I'm tired of seeing Lattimore on the field.
Yeah. All right, I got to roll. You're the best. Thanks. Stay on hold. I'm going to get a few more calls in here. I do want to tell you real quickly, about my friends at Foley Mechanical. We were having some HVAC system issues, and Dan Foley himself came out and dealt with my wife and I directly. He is a great guy, super impressive. He owns 100% of the company, not a franchise, not some big private equity firm. He controls the quality from the equipment to the people he hires. His team, professional, skilled, super sharp. Foley Mechanical is a full-service heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers company. They're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty. They work across the entire DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done right, call Foley Mechanical. Tell Dan that I sent you. All right, we just have time for a couple more calls. So those of you that I'm not going to get to, I apologize, but I want to get to the people who have been on hold the longest. Aveen, thanks. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. I think it's salvageable because you can't discount Jaden Daniels catching fire in the second half of the season and leading a surge. The offense, when it's in sync, it's capable of dominating and taking over games. Same with Jaden Daniels. Possessions is the key. Offense is the best defense. When we win games, we hold teams to 7 to 9 possessions. This Dallas game, we held them to. They had 8 possessions in the first half.
First half, yeah.
But
right.
But really fast, you can't play the schedule game, but we're towing a fine line, and this is how it goes. You have 5 games against 5 lesser quarterbacks who are capable of self-destructing on their own. Darnold, Tua, Nix, McCarthy, and Dart. So you kind of have to take care of those. And Jaden needs to have 3 of those games he had last year against the Bengals and the Eagles and Falcons in December, where he goes nuclear. Those games where he throws for 5 touchdowns, or he goes 23 of 26, throws for 300 yards, or a game where he rushes for 150, which he's capable of doing. So you need 3 of those games against 3 of the better offenses, Dallas, Philly, Detroit, if he plays against Kansas City, which he's capable of doing. So he needs to have 3 of those games again.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, I also believe what you just said, that they, while the teams they are facing look daunting right now, and again, the schedule is always about not who you play, but when you play them. And by the way, it looks like we're not playing Kansas City at the right time. And since Seattle is a week from Sunday night, probably not playing them at the right time either. And Detroit's after that, they're playing well. And we're playing 3 straight games against teams who are playing very well right now and look like legitimate 2 of the 3 Super Bowl contenders, and the other one certainly a playoff team. But to your point, yes, some of those teams still have quarterbacks capable, even against a bad defense, of not having a great day. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead. Is the season salvageable? What's up?
We got held to the W, man.
Yep.
Playoffs?
Well, you've been very optimistic even during this, rough start to the season. So where are you today?
Hey, listen, man. The records say it's salvageable. The eye test tell you it's not salvageable. This off the strength of the coaching is low IQ coaching. The players are low IQ playing. I mean, we 7 for 7 with Lattimore and Martin running into each other. I mean, that's got to be some type of record.
It's true.
When the same
We
two
are 7 for 7 on that.
into each other.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not about who we playing. It's never about the other team. We're beating ourselves. Go to all 4 losses. We have beat ourselves, right? So we're not making
Well,
any
no.
lineup
Green Bay
changes.
beat the snot out of us, okay?
Okay, all right, okay.
The Falcons, we couldn't get off the field. But the Bears game, we beat ourselves, no doubt.
We beat ourselves against the Falcons. We beat ourselves against the Bears. We beat ourselves just against the
Falcons
Cowboys.
were much better that day.
We playing low IQ.
Okay.
We playing low IQ and we coaching low IQ. We're not making any lineup changes. We're not making any schematic changes. The defense is bad, same thing. And the offense is smoke and mirrors. Offense is fool's gold. You keep throwing me numbers, 20 points here, 20, but it's not consistent about the offense. It's chunky at best.
You're right.
Until they make a decision, and I'm going to say this too, we've been flat in 5 out of 7 games. I was at that game on Sunday, man. Some dudes wasn't ready to play. You look at the other sideline, they was ready to play.
You were at the game Sunday in Dallas?
I was at the game in Dallas on Sunday, man. You know what I mean? Jerry World is fantastic. I can't even front on that one.
Right.
But listen, they didn't show up ready to play. And it's been like that 5 out of 7 games. It's going to take an attitude adjustment for this team to get back into this.
All right, I gotta roll, but I'm gonna end with this off of your call. I gotta go. The coaching the rest of the way, when you are in a bind like this, it takes real leadership to get out of it. And it takes, by the way, a locker room that you've built that's capable of getting out of it. So they are going to be measured for sure on what happens the rest of the way and how it happens. Back tomorrow. Chris Russell's next.